Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is it was supposed to be simple in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 16, Tea Time. We should have brought a brooch. Lawrence Helman Gloucester, scion of the noble house of Gloucester and heir to Count Erwin Gloucester, quite rightly complained to his fellow representative outside the Cathedral of the Goddess. Why is that? Mary Ann von Edmund, the fellow representative in question, asked a little nervously. Mostly because she said everything at least a little nervously, as though fearing the world at large disapproved of her existence. Because then the Archbishop would have worn it, of course, Lawrence explained with a frown still on his face. She wore the pendant the Empire sent, and she even kept the dagger the King of Faerghus sent right there at her waist. She would have most certainly worn a brooch had we thought to provide one, and then she would be showing approval to us as well as them. He sighed, annoyed with himself. Worse, it is entirely our fault for failing to send Lady Eisner something she could wear. To think, she could have been wearing a brooch decorated with the rose of House Gloucester right upon her breast. Oh, or perhaps a golden deer would have been better to represent the alliance as a whole. Oh, I see, and my apologies for failing to consider that earlier. It is not your fault, Mary Ann, it is mine for failing to be a proper leader. I should have considered the potential of accessories long before we arrived here. Perhaps a deer leaping out of a rose? That would combine the two motifs quite nicely. What if we get her a brooch before we have to leave? We could still present it to her. No, that won't work, giving a gift after the ceremony is far too gauche. We'll look like we're desperate for her approval. No, we need some type of event to justify giving her another gift. While the pair from Leicester further discussed their gift-giving options, a somewhat less lively conversation was taking place nearby. We're dead. We're absolutely dead, Sylvain stated with a calm he did not feel as he watched Ingrid pacing. No, we can still salvage this. We haven't completely ruined everything, it's just a setback. Just a small setback. Ingrid, our king sent the new archbishop a dagger. I know he sent her a dagger. I was there. She pressed her hands to her face, letting out a groan of pure frustration. How did neither of us check the box beforehand? Probably because we didn't think our king would be dumb enough to send a bare blade as a gift. Don't say that. Dimitri's still the king. Ingrid, he sent probably the most threatening thing he could have sent aside from just stuffing a snake in a box. How are we supposed to be talking about the friendship of Faerghus and the church when our king basically sent a declaration of war? It's not that bad, she didn't take it like that. Because she's apparently way nicer than Lady Rhea, who definitely would have had us both executed if we showed up with that as a gift for her. She probably wouldn't do that. There was no certainty in her voice in the slightest, and Sylvain gave her a flat look. Ingrid, Dimitri could have sent a letter requesting she cut our heads off and it would have had the same effect as far as we're concerned. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Seriously, it's only because we know him that we know he wasn't thinking instead of actually trying to start something. I mean, what lunatic would even give a lady a knife for a gift? Across the continent, over in the capital city of Ferdiad, King Dimitri paused in the middle of signing documents for the restoration of Duscur as he felt a strange sensation of offense settle over him, which he decided to blame on either Sylvain or Felix before getting back to work. Meanwhile, back in Garreg Mach, the last of the representatives were having a far more positive conversation. We did excellently, Bernadetta. Ferdinand praised with a big smile on his face. You were fantastic in there. But all I did was hand you the box. Bernadetta squeaked, not sure what to do in the face of such positivity. And you performed your role exactly as required. You even kept your head raised at the end there, like a proper noble. Bernie ducked her head at that, a blush coming to her face. I guess I did do all right. Yes, you most certainly did. And did you see that smile on Lady Eisner's face? She absolutely loved our gift. I knew a necklace would work perfectly, though even I didn't expect her grace to put it on right then and there. Didn't you argue with the Edelgard about the gift being a pendant? You said it should be something more extravagant. I do wonder what sort of meaning she intended to convey by putting it on then and there though. Ferdinand wondered to himself, too caught up in his own thoughts to notice the contradiction. And maybe she just really liked it. Oh, she certainly liked it, but even then, it's a bold move to wear it so immediately and openly. Perhaps she does intend to foster some type of partnership with the Empire? The Knights of Syros did aid in taking in Bear, so if we could continue that relationship. Your Grace. Bernadetta squeaked and almost immediately hid behind Ferdinand, who didn't seem to mind at all as he turned towards a surprised priest. Oh, hello. Do you require our attention? Yes, I was actually here to get you and Lady Varley. He tried to glance around Ferdinand to see her, but Bernie just ducked further behind her taller friend. Lady Eisner is requesting the presence of all the representatives in the audience chamber. Oh, so this must be the proper meeting then. Very well, we know the way well enough, don't we, Bernadetta? Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, Bernie repeated to herself, shaking at the thought of having to be in a big, official meeting with foreign nobles that were, worse, her former classmates. What if they saw her do something embarrassing back at the academy and brought it up now and she messed up and started a war? Is Lady Varley okay? Oh, Bernadetta will be fine, she just gets like this sometimes. Breathe, Bernie, breathe. But she couldn't, not if she was going to completely ruin everything forever right in front of the new Archbishop, who ran away the first time she saw her, and completely forgot what she was trying to say in front of everyone. Who seemed almost just as nervous as she was. Was she going to be okay on her own up there? Bernadetta? Are you feeling all right now? Ferdinand asked, noticing her breathing evening out. Why yeah, I think so. We should go. Actually, we should hurry. We want to be the first ones there, right? Oh, you're right. Most definitely do. Come along, I shall lead the way. Okay, maybe this wouldn't be too bad. She just had to remember Lady Eisner was just as scared as she was, and Ferdinand was tall so he would be a good shield in case anything happened. Byleth, you can't brew one pot of tea for every representative. Seath chided as Byleth fussed over the tea table she was setting up. It's not one for each of them, look, they like different blends, so I can't just serve them all the same thing. Yes. You can. That is the accepted thing to do when you have multiple people meeting for a gathering. But they're not all going to like it. I have to be a good host. Being a good host doesn't mean waiting on everyone hand and foot, that's why nobles have staff and that's why you, the Archbishop, also have staff to help you. Yuri doesn't count, he's not even staff. Byleth countered, gesturing at the pretty boy in question, who admittedly cleaned up pretty nicely in his current butler outfit. Seath is paying me, so I'm pretty sure I do count as staff. Why did you get him anyway? Because of the Ashen Wolves, he's the most likely to be able to handle these duties without causing a major incident, Seath explained. You can't tell me you think Balthus and Happy, or, goddess forbid, Constance, could convincingly work as a servant, can you? I don't know, Happy does have that natural apathy servants have down, Yuri noted while Byleth frowned. Okay, but why not regular church staff? Why him? Ouch. You're really making me feel unloved right now, friend. Byleth cringed, immediately feeling guilty. Sorry. Seath, meanwhile, sighed. My thought was that having a familiar face nearby would be comforting. Though I'm starting to reconsider. No need to reconsider, I can play the part of the silent servant easily enough, Yuri said, before giving Byleth a grin, and all's forgiven, friend. Just try to keep yourself steady during this, alright? Alright. Right, I can do this. No, wait, do we have enough berries? Maybe we should get another bowl. Pardon me, Your Grace, the priest blinked as another woman squeaked in fright at the sight of him. He was starting to wonder if there was something about his face. Duke Agir and Lady Varley are here, Your Grace. What? Already? I thought I had more time. Oh no, is the tea even ready? It's been ready for a while, Your Holiness, Yuri pointed out, before nodding to the priest. I'll take it from here. Right, sure, the priest murmured, rubbing at his chin in thought as he turned away. Maybe he shouldn't have shaved his beard, maybe that was it. Meanwhile, outside, Bernadetta was honestly feeling a lot better about this meeting. Maybe it was a bad thing to think, but hearing what was definitely Lady Eisner also squeak at being surprised was weirdly reassuring. Once she and Ferdinand entered though, the new Archbishop managed to look a lot calmer, her hands folded in front of her lap as she greeted them with a smile. "Hello again, Duke Aegir, Lady Varley. I hope you two won't mind joining me for tea." If he was at all surprised at the sight of a tea table set up in the audience chamber, Ferdinand didn't show it as he approached. "As a true noble, I will never turn down an invitation for tea," Ferdinand declared, sitting down across from her as Bernadetta sat down next to him. For a brief moment, it seemed like Byleth was trying to reach for the teapot so that she could pour, before Yuri quickly grabbed it so he could pour instead. Within moments, 3 cups of tea were poured, the sweet scent filling the room. "If my nose does not betray me, that is Albanian fruit blend, is it not?" Ferdinand asked, lifting the cup up to take in its scent. "Your nose does not betray you at all," Byleth assured. "After the misunderstanding with the gifts, I felt it only appropriate to choose a blend that would help everyone relax." "I see, a good choice indeed. I am glad to see that you are a tea connoisseur as well." Tea, this is one of my favorites, thank you," Bernadetta said with a shy smile, earning a smile from Byleth in return. "If I may ask, I understand that you two were students of the Black Eagles prior to the academy closing, correct?" "That we were. I myself was the unofficial leader," Ferdinand boasted, his rivalry with Edelgard ever present. "I must admit, it is a shame that we had to leave so soon, but as a noble, it is my duty to lead the country." Bernadetta, meanwhile, chose to busy herself with the tart so as to avoid unintentionally insulting the academy by saying she stayed in her room most of the time. "Speaking of, how is the Empire faring?" Seath asked, drawing attention towards him. "With the former regent gone, the former duke arrested, and the Marquis Vestra having passed away, I imagine there is much unrest, especially among those who supported them." The mention of his father did make Ferdinand's smile falter for a moment, before he brushed past that. "I must admit, it has been quite the challenge, but this is something I have been preparing for since I was born. Though we may be young, we are also blessed to have Count Berglis and Count Hevering to assist us. Duke Girth has also been quite the boon for us." "And what of Count Varley?" We actually came here with him in mind." "Bernadetta, if you will." Flinching as she suddenly felt everyone's eyes on her, Bernadetta accidentally spilled some of her tea on herself. Yelping at the sensation, Bernadetta sent her teacup flying, going directly towards Ferdinand. At least, it seemed so, until suddenly Byleth grabbed the cup mid-air, the formerly flying contents now sitting perfectly still in the cup. "Are you okay? Do you need to see a healer for your burn?" Bernadetta stared at Byleth for a good few seconds before managing to shake herself out of her surprise. "Oh, and no, I don't think it's that dash." "That was incredible," Ferdinand interrupted, looking outright amazed at Byleth's reflexes. "How in the world did you, Bernadetta?" "I'm so sorry, I completely ignored your burn." It's nothing, really." "Nonsense, you spilled tea all over yourself." Does it look like it might stain?" "Here, take my handkerchief, we might be able to get it before it settles." Why you really don't need to." Is this a bad time?" Sylvain asked from the open doorway, because apparently he and Ingrid were here now. "No, everything is fine," Seath began, "there was just a small..." Bernadetta spilled tea on herself. Ferdinand readily explained. Just dash." "What?" And then Ingrid was rushing over to her. "Are you okay? How bad is it? Did you get scalded?" "And no. I are really just Didon't pick me up." But Ingrid didn't listen. "Don't worry, I'll get you to the infirmary." "Of course. I'll come with you," Ferdinand declared, and then the only delegate there was Sylvain. Didn't Manuela leave?" Byleth asked, glancing at Seath. "I remember Ria mentioned something about a leave of absence a while ago." "Yes, she decided to leave for Inver when the school year ended early," he answered, before sighing. "So much for a simple meeting. Sylvain, would you like to have a seat?" Sure," Sylvain said, sitting down so he wasn't standing awkwardly by the door, before Yuri poured him some tea. Sorry again about the knife. It's okay, I understand why it might not be the best gift to some, but it does go to show how honest your king is, Byleth said, before giving a slightly coy smile, but perhaps next time you can tell him to send a sheath as well. He does not have to be so eager in his desire to keep that old promise of protection. Or perhaps he should send something that isn't a weapon in the first place, Seath cut in. Hey, I agree with you there. If I had known it was a knife I would have ran to the marketplace to find something else, Sylvain said, not even bothering to defend Dimitri. Yes, I suppose you would have been in quite the rush to replace it, Byleth replied, trying to not make it evident she was happy she was able to tease others for once. Yeah, I'll admit, that wasn't one of my best lines, Sylvain admitted with a small grimace at his earlier faux pas. And just what line was that exactly? Seath asked, making Sylvain grimace again. So, Lady Eisner, if you don't mind me asking, I don't remember seeing you around the monastery when I was here, he deflected, were you away? Yes, my father took me from the monastery when I was young. The goddess commanded Rhea to allow me to see the woes of this land, and thus I would receive her blessing upon my return once I was ready, Byleth explained, keeping her tone even as she recited her practiced lines. She still wasn't sure it was completely necessary, but the cardinals wanted the story straight, so there it was. Oh, wow, that seems like a lot. Yes, the people of this land suffer greatly. Unable to keep the sadness out of her eyes and voice, she looked up at Sylvain. You've suffered greatly too, haven't you? And, despite it being a question, Sylvain felt as if it was more than just that. As if she somehow knew about what he'd been through. Well, as heir of House Gautier, I have had to deal with practically yearly invasions from Sreng. I swear, they must have a grudge against me specifically since they invaded on 2 of my birthdays, Sylvain deflected, trying to joke. And before Byleth could say anything else, the door opened again as another pair arrived. My apologies for our tardiness, but once I heard we would be having a tea party, I wanted to be well prepared. Lawrence declared, the noble coming in as loudly as he could while Marianne trailed behind him. I pray you forgive us for being late, his companion murmured, her voice so much lower than his that she'd probably be impossible to hear if he was still talking. Walking up, Lawrence presented a small box to Byleth. As a noble, it is only proper that I present a gift during a tea party. Though I must apologize that it is only a small trinket. Blinking, Byleth took the gift and opened it, finding a small brooch that looked like a golden deer. And before she could thank him for the gift, Sylvain spoke up. Wow, Lawrence, didn't think you'd try flirting with the Archbishop. I mean, a gift during a tea party? Pretty sure that's something you reserve for dates. That got Byleth to blink. Had she been taking her students out on dates last time around? Humph. I ask that you don't make false accusations, Sylvain. I would never be so crass as to flirt with her grace. I dunno, man, I heard plenty of rumors about you back at the academy. That is quite the accusation coming from you. She should probably speak up, right? Before she could get a chance, however, a certain trio came back. Ah, sorry for rushing off like that, it wasn't as bad as we thought, Ingrid apologized, looking sheepish. I told you I was okay, Bernadetta mumbled, pouting as she looked at the ground. Well, it is better to be safe than sorry, is it not? Ferdinand said. Oh, was everything all right? Lawrence asked, a bit of worry in his voice. Yeah, these two just overreacted cause Bernadetta spilled a bit of tea on herself, Sylvain answered, earning a glare from Ingrid. Hey, we just wanted to make sure she was okay. And in the process ran away from a meeting with the Archbishop. And that made Ingrid blanch. Oh my goddess, I am so sorry, I pray that you'll forgive me. Ingrid said, bowing her head in repentance. And, despite herself, Byleth couldn't help but begin to laugh. A laugh unbefitting of an archbishop, sure, but it was still a genuine laugh. Is everything okay, Lady Eisner? Why yes, everything is good. Byleth managed to get out as she laughed. You all just remind me of some people I used to know, she said with a wistful smile. People you met on your travels? Sylvain asked. Yes, I haven't seen them in a long time, so I can only hope they're well. For a moment, she thought back on the academy from her past life, before she shook her head. But for now, I do believe you had something to say. Byleth asked, gazing at Bernadetta. Why yeah. Clearing her throat, she did her best to calm herself down. After everything that happened at the capital, a lot of people are feeling uneasy. So, we were thinking that, with your blessing, we might re-establish the Southern Church. Oh, okay, Byleth said, readily agreeing. That is to say, while we are pleased to hear that you wish to re-establish the Southern Church, there is much that must be discussed prior to that, Seath cut in. For starters, who would be the bishop there? We actually have someone in mind, Ferdinand replied, smiling as always. The Minister of Religious Affairs was a seat created after the absence of the last bishop, so we feel it only right that Count Varley steps in as the bishop. Isn't there a better option? Byleth inquired, frowning at the thought of Bernadetta's father gaining more authority, though her blunt question earned a disapproving look from Seath. Not that we are condemning Count Varley, but there are many things to consider when thinking who will be the bishop. It is not something we can simply decide over this one meeting. How about I visit the Empire? What? Wow, Seath looked like he was physically holding himself back there. Well, we can't decide it from here, right? Byleth pointed out, and besides, shouldn't I visit the leaders as the Archbishop? Well, I for one would be honored to have you visit in Bear. Ferdinand declared, I promise you that I shall strive to ensure it is the greatest trip you've been on. In that case, the Alliance would also be glad to extend an invitation to you, Lorenz quickly cut in. As does the kingdom. The king would be honored to have you visit. Nodding, Byleth smiled as Ingrid added in her own offer. I'm very glad. We can discuss when exactly I shall be visiting before you all leave, she said, trying to ignore the small sigh Seath let out in favor of smiling at everyone. But for now, why don't we finish having our tea and treats? And as the tea party went on, the Archbishop found herself at peace as she talked with the delegates. Ferdinand and Lorenz bonded over their noble pursuits, while Bernadetta and Marianne talked quietly to one another, though Byleth noted that the latter kept glancing at her. As for Sylvain, he was flirting with Yuri. Who was flirting back? Moving on, it seemed Seath and Ingrid were discussing possible help the church could provide to the kingdom against the rebellions. It was certainly an interesting tea party, but one she enjoyed. Sadly, this time came to an end, with the delegates heading back to their lodgings for the night. Wait, Lady Edmund, may I speak with you for a moment? Byleth asked before she could leave. Me? Marianne asked, a bit surprised. Yes, there is something I want to ask. She paused, then glanced at Seath and Yuri. In private, if we could. Of course, Your Holiness, Yuri said, smiling as he placed a hand over his heart and bowed, the picture of a perfect servant. Seath, meanwhile, just gave Byleth a short nod. Try to get some rest when you're done. Of course, thank you both for your aid today. She smiled as the two men left, before glancing back at Marianne, who seemed increasingly nervous. If I may offer, would you like to sit? I am, fine with standing, if that is all right with, though it is why your decision, of course, why your grace. Very well then. May I ask why you were looking at me throughout the tea party? It felt like you wanted to speak to me. And no, I wouldn't want to impose. Is it about my connection to the goddess? Byleth decided to ask, cutting to the heart of the matter. Marianne froze for a moment, before looking tentatively at the new archbishop. So you do have a connection then? I do. To be completely honest, I've spoken with her. The blue-haired noble looked somewhere between startled, relieved, and genuinely curious. What is she like? If I may ask. Byleth felt her lip twitch towards a smile, thinking about Suthies. If I'm being honest, mostly imperious and bratty. Before letting out a soft, fond sigh as Marianne stared at her in shock. And also deeply kind and loving. Someone who gives second chances, even when you don't really deserve it. Byleth startled as Marianne suddenly took her hands, holding them as she gazed at her intently. I have heard you have the gift of prophecy. That was what the divine blessing, the letter spoke of. If I may, why you knew of us already, didn't you? Byleth blinked, genuinely caught off guard by this sudden firmness from the normally quiet, nervous girl, before she nodded. I did. Do you want to know anything? I don't know everything that happens, I didn't experience everything that happened to everyone. Marianne's grip on her hands tightened as she stared into Byleth's eyes, seeing only honesty there. Do I live? You do. You live long, with friends and loved ones at your side. Her gaze wavered, her grip shaking. Please, tell me why you are being honest. That it isn't just, that you're and not just telling me what I want to hear. Is it what you want to hear? Byleth asked, meeting her gaze. I know what you pray to Suthies for. You want your misfortune to end, and you view your life as misfortune. That almost made her crack. She tried to breathe evenly, even with the knowledge that the goddess heard her prayers, that she knew, I'll live? Why do I deserve dash? Because you're a kind young woman with a good heart. Misfortune doesn't matter, what matters is the good you do and the kindness you show. It matters that you help, even if you can't always see it. Byleth rubbed her thumb against the back of Marianne's hand, trying to be reassuring. The crest of Maurice doesn't make you a monster. She blinked, some tears breaking free of her watery eyes. It doesn't. It doesn't. It never will. What else happens? If you can tell me. Byleth took a slow, deep breath, but kept her eyes on Marianne's. A war. One between every nation in Fodlan, with the church in the middle and monsters in the dark pushing everything towards destruction. She glanced at the tea table for a moment, unable to stop herself. Half the delegates at that table were dead by the end of it. Marianne gasped. She couldn't help it, especially with how solemnly and surely Lady Eisner stated that fact. And it truly felt like an undeniable fact, one that sent her mind racing, wondering which ones of her classmates, her friends, could have perished. There has to be a way to change that. There is. That's why I'm here, Byleth said, smiling sadly back at Marianne. I am going to make things better this time. I promise you. Everyone deserves that. To be happy and safe. That's what I want. That's what I'm going to make happen. May I help? A look of genuine surprise came to Byleth's face, her confidence and surety visibly wavering as she gave Marianne an almost shy, nervous look. Are you sure? Marianne nodded, more firmly than she ever had before. I am. How can I help? Oh, okay. Okay, I might need to think about this. Truthfully, I don't know as much as I probably should about the Alliance. I know about its history, I have plenty of information on that, but I don't know Claude that well. I never saw much of him or really spoke to him, so, yeah, I guess anything you could tell me might be helpful. Honestly, the only thing I really remember about him was the time he used Edelgard's fear of rats as a way to catch her off guard. It didn't really work, but still. Oh, well, he is, maybe overly friendly and familiar. What happens to him? Byleth sighed sadly. Either dead or just missing. All I know is that no one saw him again after a major battle where, many people died. I see, well, I can try to help as much as I can. Would it be alright if I wrote to you once I am back in Leicester? Oh, sure. Sure, I would love that. Marianne smiled at the genuine happiness Lady Eisner showed her. Anne, is there anything else? Off the top of my head, oh. Wait, do you know a girl named Shay? Marianne blinked. Shay? Yes, I do. She joined the Black Eagle House after the start of the school year. Some bandits attacked the house leaders and she saved them. Right, okay, I know about that part. Is there anything special about her? Anything significant that you can remember? Why yes, there is. Have you seen her before? In your visions? Byleth shook her head. No, and that's the thing, I haven't seen her at all. I don't know who she is, and it's weird. And kind of concerning. Oh, well, she does have this sort of strange power. Oh, what was it? She can form a sword from nowhere, she can warp without assistance, and she can transform, sort of. She starts glowing, I suppose. Huh. Huh. That sounds significant, Byleth muttered, a small frown coming to her face. She didn't like how Agartha and those powers of hers sounded. She didn't seem like a bad person, Lady Eisner, Marianne said, attempting a little smile. She's a little boisterous, but she seems nice. Okay. Okay, I'll reserve judgment for now. Byleth sighed, feeling weirdly tired after all that. Thanks for talking with me. Marianne smiled back at her, a bit better this time. Thank you. I really needed this talk. Anne, please give my regards to the goddess, if possible. Heh. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. She's been kind of quiet lately. Oh, so you would prefer I speak up then? Byleth stiffened, a startled noise slipping out of her mouth that made Marianne flinch back. Sorry, she just, are right, sorry. Lady Eisner, is the goddess speaking with you right now? Byleth blinked, then looked back at Marianne, who was staring at her a bit intensely. Well, she just said one thing. She did. What did she say? May I speak with her too? Suthies. The goddess in her head hummed, apparently considering the question. I do not know if I should. After all, I am far too bratty and imperious to make a good impression on your new friend. Why, you heard that? I am the goddess, remember? Of course I hear all, she taunted, her tone smug as Byleth squirmed. I am sorry. No, I do not think that is good enough. A proper follower should show true penitence, should she not? Marianne, meanwhile, watched as the future archbishop turned a curious shade of red and attempted to protest to something the goddess was saying. From the tone of it, perhaps some type of chastisement? It felt strange to think the prophet of the goddess could get in trouble with her deity, but perhaps the goddess took exception to Lady Eisner's earlier, somewhat sacrilegious comment. Finally though, Lady Eisner sighed, before looking at Marianne again. Hey, do you mind coming to the cathedral with me? Apparently I need to pray for forgiveness. Oh, of course. Not to worry, I do that all the time, so I am very familiar with the practice. Well, I guess that's good. It seems like I'm going to have to get used to it too, Byleth mumbled, ignoring the obvious amusement Suthies was radiating. She was starting to think this prophet thing was more trouble than it was worth. Chapter 17, Divinity, Delicacy, and Deliberation. I must say, Marianne, your noble radiance has been shining brightly, Ferdinand commented as the delegates sat down for breakfast. Has there been anything specific that occurred to mark this change? Oh, thank you, Marianne replied, a nervous smile on her face. Speaking with Lady Eisner has helped greatly. Of course, I should have known. Yes, the new archbishop had indeed made quite the excellent impression so far. Even Bernadetta seems more at ease around her. Well, it's just, Bernadetta ducked her head, not expecting to be addressed or mentioned. She was pretty sure she shouldn't mention that the main reason she found Lady Eisner easier to interact with was how obviously nervous she could be. She's, very nice. She really is, Marianne added with a soft smile. Indeed, she truly does carry the bearing of nobility. Lawrence declared with his usual pomp, even if it was a little inappropriate for the breakfast table. I admit, I do have some theories regarding exactly what her noble lineage may be, but that is a topic for later. For now, I really must praise you, Marianne. Oh, why? For getting so close to Lady Eisner, of course. It is only natural, given you are both women of such strong faith, yet it also brings quite the boon to the alliance as a whole. He smirked at the Empire's representatives seated across from him. After all, it is clear that of the three of our groups, we have most certainly earned her favor. Oh? Well, that is quite interesting, Ferdinand noted with some amusement. So why then do you think she continues to wear the Empire's gift rather than the brooch you gave her? Lawrence's expression soured in visible annoyance. I am certain she would have just as readily were it not for Gautier giving her the wrong impression. If that loud mouth hadn't suggested my gift was anything but innocently intended, she would most certainly be wearing it now. He shot an annoyed look down the table, where Sylvain and Ingrid were sitting. It truly is ridiculous. Lady Eisner hasn't even been able to meet my eyes since that cad made his insinuations. Though I suppose that is to be expected, she does seem to be quite the shy lady. She must be woefully unused to rogues like him. Further down the table, the rogue in question let out a sigh. Okay, we need a plan. There's got to be some way to salvage this. I know, but what can we do? Ingrid sighed too, staring morosely at her breakfast. We made a terrible first impression, and second impression. And third impression. All right, the dagger wasn't our fault. Yes, maybe we should have made sure our king didn't send a gift that could be construed as a threat on the archbishop's life, but we can't be blamed for not expecting that. And Lady Eisner didn't react that badly to the bad first impression I made, and that was definitely my fault there. I'll take the blame for it. I'd be annoyed if you didn't, but, still, I was the one who overreacted at the tea party, so, we can share the blame. Sylvain scratched at his head. I'm not sure if that's completely even, but the rest of the party didn't go that badly. You at least got on well with Seath, right? Right, what were you doing anyway, she asked, glancing at her friend. You were mostly talking to that servant. Who, Yuri? Oh, yeah, that reminds me, actually. I had a feeling I'd seen him somewhere, and guess what? He's Count Rowe's adoptive son. Ingrid blinked. Wait, really? Oh, that explains why I thought I saw him before. Hold on, why is he here then? And working for the new archbishop? That's the part I'm not sure about. I asked a bit about him, but he didn't give me much. He grinned a little. I think he was more interested in me than I was in him. Interested in what way? Ingrid asked, already getting concerned that her friend was up to his usual activities. Though she didn't think he flirted with men too, then again, it wouldn't be out of character. Oh, you know. Gossiping about me, are we? Yuri asked from behind Sylvain, a grin coming to his face as the redhead jumped. Whoa. When did you get here? Oh, a moment ago. I still need to eat, after all, he said, amusement obvious in his voice as the pair of kingdom nobles stared at him. Besides, the dining hall is open to everyone, isn't it? Well, yeah, I just wasn't expecting you to show up. Ingrid, meanwhile, was looking at Yuri a little askance, taking note of his change in clothes. Is that an academy uniform? Oh, this? It's close enough to one, sure. Before I get into that though, I was wondering if you two were planning anything for Lady Eisner. As her attendant, I've gotten to know these things, you know, he said, settling in next to Sylvain and Ingrid like it was the most natural thing in the world to do. You're her attendant? Ingrid asked, a bit surprised. Not just a servant here. Of course, the Archbishop Ria herself assigned me to her, Yuri said, a coy smile on his face. But, as interesting as that story may be, I do believe I asked if you had plans with Lady Eisner. Oh, yes, I understand that Lady Eisner will have her portrait done in the afternoon, correct? If at all possible, I was wondering if she would like to go horseback riding with me sometime beforehand. Well, I can see if she is busy, but I make no promises. As long as she's willing to entertain the offer, Ingrid said, trying to keep a steady face. And what of you, Sylvain? Planning on joining in on the excursion as well? Ah, I was thinking of staying here myself. We still need to hash out the details of when Lady Eisner will be coming to Faerghus, right? I figure Seath and I can talk about that. Oh, before I forget, I wanted to talk about what I asked you last night. Oh my, that eager to be in my company are you? Well, I suppose I might have some free time if Lady Eisner does go on an excursion. Seriously, Sylvain? You can't get with Lady Eisner, so you move on to her attendant. Ingrid complained. Hey, it's not like that. As Sylvain tried to defend himself, the rest of the delegates were soon met with other guests. Oh, hello, you must be the delegates from the Empire and the Alliance. Flame greeted as she approached the table where they were sitting. It is a pleasure to meet you. Oh? Aren't you Seetha's sister, Flame? Ferdinand asked the green-haired girl in a curiously silver and purple version of the usual Garag mock uniform. That I am. On behalf of the Ashen Wolves, I extend our greetings. The What Wolves? Bernadetta asked, finding the name scary. The Ashen Wolves. We're the secret fourth house of the Academy. Flame happily explained. Come on Sparkly, it's not much of a secret if you go around telling everyone, said Happy as she walked up, leading a morose-looking Constance by the hand. Oh my apologies, please everyone, keep what I told you a secret. Come on now Happy, no need to keep it a secret. I mean, the Academy is closed anyways, Balthus said, making everyone have to crane their necks up as they looked from the short Flame to the massive Balthus. Hey, you're from the Alliance, right? He asked Lawrence and Marianne. Why yes. And just who might you be? Name's Balthus, and I'm Byleth's trainer. A brute like you is Lady Eisner's trainer. Lawrence inquired, openly skeptical. That I am. But I wanted to ask how Holst is doing, heard there was an Almiran invasion recently. General Holst is doing well. We helped him during the attack, but it didn't seem like he needed it, Marianne explained. Good to hear. I figured he'd be fine, but you never know until you hear it. And how might you be acquainted with General Holst? Lawrence asked with an eyebrow raised. Oh, me and him go way back. See, I actually used to, hang on, aren't you Count Gloucester's kid? Lawrence blinked. I am, yes. I suppose it must be obvious. Oh sure, you look just like him. Ah yes, I've been told that many. Hold on, how do you know my father? Oh, I owe him tons of money, Balthus explained quite easily. Speaking of, since the Academy closed I wasn't able to do that job he wanted. Don't suppose you can ask him if he has something else in mind on how I can pay him back. As Lawrence felt his exasperation grow, a different conversation was happening nearby. Excuse me, I hope it's not a bother but you seem quite familiar. Have we met before? Ferdinand asked Constance. I am no one worth remembering, especially from one so splendid as you, Constance responded, eyes completely downcast as she looked away from him. Are you okay? Bernadetta asked, a bit worried. To think I would cause someone to worry about me, I truly am worthless. Happy really had to hold back on her sigh. She gets like this sometimes, she's not good with bright places. As for your question, Coco is from the Empire. Her last name is Novelli if that helps. Novelli? As in Constance von Novelli? I had no idea you were alive. Ferdinand exclaimed as a smile spread across his face. Do you remember me? It's Ferdinand von Aegir. For you to remember someone so depraved like me shows me how gracious you truly are, Constance mumbled in reply, prompting a very worried look from Ferdinand. See Constance? What happened to you? Nothing, I simply came to know the depths of my depravity. Sorry to interrupt, but what's going on? Ah, Bernadetta, you must have never met her. This is Constance von Novelli, from House Novelli. The one that fell in the Dada and Brigid War, Ferdinand explained as he frowned. After her house was disposed of she went missing. It does my heart wonders to see you alive. You are far too kind to someone like me. If I may ask, what are you doing here? My resplendent benefactor has graced me with the honor to be her tutor, even though my knowledge is nowhere near the level to teach someone like her. Still the best one for the job, Happy noted. Yuri Bird is smart too, but he's more mouth smart. And what position do you hold? Ferdinand asked. Oh, I'm just Chatterbox's friend. And after that, we ended up finding where the bandits hid their spoils in 3 different locations in the forest. I guess you could say good things come in trees. The loud voice of Alois came into the cafeteria, getting the attention of the delegates as they all heard his joke. To no surprise, everyone either frowned, grimaced, or winced, even Flame was sporting a small frown. Though as painful as the joke was, they were far more surprised at the laughter that followed soon after. You know, if you weren't already a knight, I'd say you'd make a wonderful entertainer, Byleth said as her laughter subsided, not noticing the incredulous stares she was receiving. If only, haha. However, I am happy with my life as a knight, especially since it means I can take care of my wife and child. How are they, by the way? Quite excellent. They also send their well wishes to you on your new position. I'm glad to hear that. Maybe I can meet them sometime soon. While that sounds lovely, need I remind you that you do have official duties to attend to? Yuri asked as he walked up, getting Byleth to pout for a moment. One of which is that the delegate from Faerghus wishes to know if you'll go on a horse ride with her. Oh, okay. After breakfast though, right? Whenever you are ready. Doing her best not to show it, Ingrid couldn't help but feel immense joy. Sure, things might have started off on the wrong foot, but maybe after some one-on-one time with Lady Eisner, things will be back on track with the kingdom and church's relationship. Or Happy could come along since the Archbishop needed a guard, which, right, Ingrid wasn't sure why she didn't think of that. That being said, Ingrid took a moment to look over at Lady Eisner, who looked completely different in riding clothes than she did in her church garb. The black and grey tunic and breeches she wore were a sharp contrast to her white and gold gown, though they somehow looked more natural on her. She even seemed more at ease in this outfit. So, Blondie, where are we going? Happy asked once the three were off riding. Excuse me? My name is Ingrid. Well yeah, but Ingy doesn't sound that great of a nickname, now does it? Happy tends to give everyone a nickname, Dame Galatea, Byleth explained. Oh, okay, but, once again Lady Eisner, I'm still not a knight, Ingrid said, trying not to anger the future archbishop by correcting her. But you still wish to become a knight, don't you? Byleth sincerely asked her. The way you move certainly portrays you as someone confident and skilled. Oh, thank you Lady Eisner, you honor me, Ingrid said, blushing a bit. As for where we're going, I found a waterfall nearby when I was still staying at the monastery. It's not that far and it's rather beautiful. That sounds lovely. Feel free to lead the way. Oh, of course. Ingrid said, smiling since things seemed to be going well. Taking the lead, Ingrid was at the head of the trio, with Happy trailing behind the Archbishop. Ingrid had to admit that, despite her apparent apathy, Happy did know to protect the rear. Well, that would be the case if Happy wasn't just trailing behind cause she was looking around at the forest they were in. Someone who didn't know her could take that as her watching the tree lean and remaining vigilant, but really, she was just kind of bored. It didn't help that her mind kept drifting back to that stupid joke Al made about trees or whatever it was. She sighed in some annoyance, thinking about Chatterbox's bizarre sense of humor. Shit. Ingrid, meanwhile, back at the front, frowned as she heard a sudden crashing sound in the trees up ahead. Maybe we should take another path. Before she could finish her sentence, her horse reared back with a frightened whinny at the sight of the massive horned reptile pushing its way through the tree lean, crushing trees in its way as its yellow eyes focused on the three riders. "Whoa girl," Ingrid attempted to soothe her horse while the steed backed up, clearly unwilling to be near the massive predator even while Ingrid tried to keep herself between it and Lady Eisner. She couldn't let the future archbishop get killed under any circumstances, but she didn't think to bring a weapon either, something she was internally cursing herself for. This route was meant to be safe. No, think about that later. For now, as long as Lady Eisner made it back, everything would be fine. Your Grace, we need to. Ingrid blinked as she saw Lady Eisner's perfectly calm horse no longer had its rider in its saddle, before noticing Happy's equally calm expression as she watched Lady Eisner walk right past Ingrid. Wait, hold on. Lady Eisner. Ingrid yelped as the future archbishop strode past her while drawing the sword at her belt. The sword Ingrid thought was ceremonial because it didn't look like a standard blade, up until Lady Eisner swung it to her side and its blade actually extended for a moment like it wasn't one whole piece but instead many segments chained together. Dame Galatea, do you have a lance? The future archbishop asked in a surprisingly even tone, her eyes completely focused on the beast in front of her. No, I didn't think to bring. Lady Eisner, you need to get away from that thing. Okay, stay back then. Happy, I'm counting on you for support if I need it. Sure thing, Chatterbox, Happy replied while Ingrid noticed the sword in Lady Eisner's grasp started glowing. And, most surprisingly of all, the demonic beast that had been pushing its way towards them, only barely held back by the trees in its way, visibly froze when it saw the future archbishop approaching it. To Ingrid's absolute shock, it actually took a step back, before suddenly roaring at Lady Eisner, who cut it straight across the snout without even getting close. "I know you're not much more than an aggressive animal, but if there's any sliver of intelligence in that big head of yours, I'm offering you a chance to leave," Lady Eisner quite calmly stated, as though she wasn't facing down a monstrosity more than twice her size. "I don't like killing more than I have to." That was a bizarre statement to hear from a holy woman, Ingrid couldn't help but feel, and she would probably argue the necessity of killing demonic beasts in general due to the poisons they spread and the damage they could do to small communities, but she was a little preoccupied watching the beast rear back before trying to breathe a deluge of that very same poison over the future archbishop. Lady Eisner. And then the beast was dead. Ingrid blinked. She stared. She blinked again, then rubbed at her eyes and leaned forward, trying to figure out if what she saw was real or not, but, yes, the demonic beast was currently lying decapitated on the ground and Lady Eisner was, making a displeased face as she pulled at her blood-stained shirt. "Ugh, ew, that smells foul, I like this tunic." Ingrid settled back on her horse, her mind still trying to catch up with what her eyes had seen. Happy, meanwhile, apparently needed no such adjustment as her horse trotted past Ingrid's, both rider and steed completely unfazed by what they just saw. "You reek. I know that." "Ugh, I forgot how much these things can bleed," Lady Eisner complained, her somewhat whiny tone completely at odds with the fact she completely decapitated a demonic beast in what seemed to be one stroke. "These bluish ones are probably the worst about it though, at least in terms of smell. It's weird that you know that." "It's not. Once you kill enough of these, you start noticing they have differences to them. Like the black and red ones smell more like oils and iron while these blue-gray ones are more rotting meat, I think." "Huh. Hey, weird thought. But do you think anyone eats demonic beasts?" Lady Eisner immediately crossed her arms in an X. "No, bad. Absolutely terrible idea." "Why?" "They're still animals. Extremely cursed animals, and at least a few of them used to be human, so no, do not do that." "I wasn't going to, what was that about some of them being human? What just happened?" Ingrid screeched as her brain finally caught up with reality. "Killed a demonic beast," Lady Eisner answered quite matter-of-factly. "Hey, do you think that waterfall would be a good place to wash off, or should we just head back now?" "I didn't bring a spare change of clothes," Happy noted, earning a sigh from Lady Eisner. "Great, I guess I have to head back like this, maybe I can still get the smell out though." "No need to scrap clothes if they can still be worn." In the midst of their conversation, Ingrid felt herself heavily re-evaluating her impressions of Lady Eisner. Impressions that were further challenged once their group returned to the monastery and she saw Lady Eisner changing out of her clothes in the bathhouse. She couldn't help but stare as Lady Eisner pulled her tunic up and off, taking note of just how muscular and scarred the prospective archbishop was. She didn't look like a typical holy woman at all, really. Her physique looked more at home on someone who had lived her entire life as a mercenary. Priestesses definitely didn't have ABS like that. "I can understand staring, Blondie," Happy commented, making Ingrid stiffen. "Chatterbox probably has the biggest breasts I've ever seen." "WHTH, that's not what I was staring at." "Oh, okay. You prefer butts then?" "That's not it either." "You Ingrid felt her face go red as she remembered Lady Eisner was right there and heard all of that. And she was blushing, which kind of fit back with Ingrid's initial priestess impression but also felt really at odds with how muscular and strong she clearly was. Ingrid shook her head, deciding she should just find an excuse to leave before she said something else that could shame the kingdom. Oh, hey, I'll take your clothes for you. You need them washed, right?" Oh, thank you." "Alright, thank you." Ingrid nodded with a smile she hoped didn't look too strained. She really hoped at least one thing she did would make a good impression on the new archbishop. As it was, well, at least the demonic beast would be considered bad luck, right? Goddess, if bandits had shown up, that really could have been interpreted as an assassination attempt. "Did she look pale to you?" Byleth asked after Ingrid had left with the basket of her clothes. "You all look pale to me," Happy noted. "Oh, right. Actually, if you don't mind me asking, is your family from Duskur or something? She inquired while heading into the baths with Happy. Nope. At least, I don't think so. My home village was hidden from the rest of Fodlan, so it's not really part of anything. Where are you from? Here, actually. I was born in the monastery. Huh. Guess it's fitting you're in the Ashen Wolves now then. We don't align with any of the nations, so you fit right in. Byleth nodded to that as she settled into the water, before pausing. Wait, I don't remember officially joining your house. Officially, maybe not, but you're one of us, Chatterbox. Well, that felt kind of nice. Very nice, actually. Sort of the same feeling of belonging she had when she taught back then, right? She shouldn't make herself sad, that would get awkward. By the way, what did you mean earlier when you said demonic beasts used to be humans? Oh, alright, so, starting from the top, there are objects called creststones which are used to power relics, like the types the nobles of Faerghus have or like my creator sword. In truth, these stones are the hearts of long-dead dragons that were murdered by greedy humans, and the only reason nobles can even use those relics is because they have crests, which their ancestors gained by drinking dragon blood. She paused, thinking. I think they drank it, at least. I don't know how else they would use it. Anyway, if a stone comes into contact with a human that doesn't have dragon blood to resonate with it, it'll react badly and transform the person into a vaguely draconic monster, which is where some demonic beasts come from. Not all of them though, most are animals that came into contact with the crest stones instead, like the giant wolves and vultures. Happy stared at Byleth, who was keeping her gaze forward like she usually did. Wow, that's a lot. Isn't it? I could get into it some more, if you want. People are doing it deliberately though, right? Byleth did look at her for a moment there, some surprise on her face, before she reddened and looked away again. Right, yes, there are people who are transforming humans into monsters deliberately so they can use them as weapons. Hey Chatterbox, you know how I summon monsters when I sigh? You do? Yeah, I do. Happy frowned. I kind of thought you knew that already. Why did you think I was in Abyss? I didn't really think about it. Yuri mentioned he killed some knights while protecting his gang, Balthus said he's running from debt collectors, and Constance has her troubles with sunlight. I just assumed you would tell me if it ever came up. Wow, alright, that's on me then. My bad. Anyway, yeah, that happened because this lady kidnapped me when I was young and stupid enough to run away from home. She didn't sigh, even if she wanted to. I wanted an adventure and I sure got one. Hey, quick question, but did the woman look pale to you? At Happy's raised eyebrow, Byleth blushed but continued. Like, exceptionally pale. More white than a corpse. No, she was pale, but Fodlan pale, not corpse pale. Byleth sighed, frowning. That doesn't mean much, but if she's connected to the Agarthans, right, I should probably explain them too. Happy raised an eyebrow before smiling slightly. You really were a teacher before, Chatterbox. Huh? Oh, yeah? What makes you say that? You get really into explaining things. Which is why you're Chatterbox. It's not a bad thing. It's kind of cute, actually. And that immediately made Byleth's face go red enough that she started sinking into the water, attempting to hide her embarrassment as Happy tried not to laugh. Not because her laughter would summon monsters, but because poor Chatterbox might outright combust if she started giggling. Thankfully, Byleth was a bit less red-faced after getting out of the baths and dressing again. Sure, she might not like her fancy church robes as much as her more practical clothes, but at least they were pretty comfy. That and she'd just spent that past few minutes explaining the whole secret evil cult of dark mages thing to Happy, so her embarrassment had largely subsided. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to wear leggings like that under priestess robes. Up until Happy commented on her fashion choices. I like my leggings, Byleth replied, pouting. Besides, it's not like anyone is going to be looking under my robes. I can think of a few people who would want to. Why Yuri trying to make me blush now? It's pretty fun. I can see why Yuri likes doing it. Byleth huffed, trying to ignore the faint heat at her cheeks, before pausing when she noticed a familiar face waiting outside the baths. Marianne. Hello Lady Eisner, the noblewoman created with a proper curtsy. I was wondering, it is still some time before your portrait is to be painted, correct? In the interim, would you care to join me for tea? Oh, of course. I would love to, Byleth accepted with a bright smile. Then I guess that's my cue to switch out, Happy said. I'll send Yuri Birdby to play butler again. Oh, are you sure you don't want to join us? I'm not pouring tea. Anyway, see you Chatterbox, bye princess. And with that, off she went. Was she referring to me? Marianne asked. Probably. Happy likes to give people nicknames. But, I'm not a princess. I don't think that matters to her, actually. Wait, couldn't you count as one? The Alliance doesn't have a royal family, but you're from a great house and that's kind of equivalent, right? Oh, no, I wouldn't say so, Marianne explained as she started walking with Byleth towards the gardens. Even if my family might be a great house, we're still nobility, not royalty. Right, I guess that makes sense. So what's the Edmund Margravate like? I'm sure you have some stories to tell about your homeland. Oh, not especially. My adoptive father only took me in a few years ago, and even then he doesn't really get me involved in running the house, Marianne said, but I know it's one of the wealthier regions in the Alliance, even if it's remote. Well, I'm sure it's a lovely place to visit. I am sure my adoptive father would be grateful to have you visit. I'm sure he would, but if I did, it would be to see you, Marianne. After all, we're friends, aren't we? I didn't want to presume, Marianne managed to get out. But if you would have me as a friend. Of course I would. And that got Marianne to smile as they arrived at the tea gardens and found a nice place to sit. Were we friends in the visions you saw? I would like to think so, though it took far longer for us to be closer. How did we meet? Taking a deep breath, Byleth reached up to hold her pendant in her hand. In the future I saw, I was a teacher. Of the Black Eagles? Marianne asked, as she stared at the pendant. Yes. We weren't close at first since you were in the Golden Deer, but it was nice seeing you grow closer to everyone when you joined. Those days may not happen again, but even so I'll cherish them. Did you also become the Archbishop in your vision? I was offered the position but, I was so tired after it all, I couldn't do it, I didn't take it. War took its toll and by the end there, Byleth sighed. I don't think I could have. I was lost, until Suthies found me again. Marianne nodded thoughtfully, taking in Lady Eisner's story. There was no mistaking the honest emotion she spoke with. I am sorry you had such a horrible experience. Thank you. It's almost funny. Before I came to Garreg Mach, I didn't know anything about the church or the goddess. Now here I am, about to become the Archbishop. Marianne gave a little laugh at what she assumed was an exaggeration of Lady Eisner's ignorance. Not only that, but you speak directly to the goddess. I hope she has forgiven you for earlier. I don't know, maybe another prayer is in order, Suthies commented in Byleth's mind. I'm sure someone as magnanimous and generous as her has forgiven me already, Byleth said, making Marianne giggle at her attempt to speak piously. You're lucky I like your students, Suthies said, making Byleth sigh in relief. Forgive me for being late, Lady Eisner, Lady Edmund, Yuri said, walking on up with a tea set. I hope I didn't make you wait long. Oh, no worries, we weren't waiting long. Sorry for interrupting your time with Sylvain. No need to apologize, Lady Eisner. After all, you're still my favorite. So it seemed she still needed to get a bit better before she could tease Yuri. Marianne, meanwhile, took note of Yuri's words, combined with Byleth's clear blush, and came to some interesting conclusions that she elected not to voice in favor of asking about the prophet's hobbies. She was still curious about the future Lady Eisner saw, but she wasn't about to ask in front of her attendant, if just because it felt far too personal to get into outside of a private setting. Some nobles might be able to ignore when servants were in the room with them, but Marianne wasn't one of them. And so the tea party progressed quite nicely for both ladies as Marianne gradually relaxed, her tension from Yuri's presence fading as they chatted, while Byleth decided to make it a personal goal of hers to get Marianne to start calling her by her first name by the end of the conversation. She'd managed to work her down to calling her Lady Byleth by the time a knight came to retrieve her for her portrait painting. This was lovely, Marianne. I hope we can chat again before it's time for you to leave, Byleth said, smiling happily at her friend. I would love that, Lady Lady Byleth, Marianne replied with a small smile of her own. May the goddess smile upon you. Well, more than she already does. Byleth ignored the amused huff Suthies made in her head in favor of finishing her goodbyes with Marianne, before walking along with Yuri to where her portrait was going to be painted over by the cathedral. She was going there a lot lately, though it only made sense. She was going to be the archbishop, after all, so she really should get used to it. Though, would she need to get used to having her portrait painted too? She didn't remember Rhea having paintings of herself around, so maybe not. What would a portrait painting involve anyway? Would they be inside the cathedral or outside? She'd probably be sitting for a while, but it wasn't like she could do something to entertain herself in the meantime. Would she have to be naked for this? No, she wasn't going to ask that. It would be embarrassing to bring up, and they'd probably tell her if something like that was required. Don't worry, you'll be keeping your clothes on. Or Yuri would just read her mind, apparently. I wasn't thinking that, Byleth muttered, ignoring the heat on her face. You're easy to read, friend. We'll work on that. Though I'm not sure you'll ever get good enough to hide things from me. Byleth huffed in annoyance at his coy tone, before just shaking it off and walking a bit faster towards the cathedral, leaving Yuri chuckling as he easily caught up. So she might have picked up her pace. And when he caught up again with an amused smirk on his face, well, she could still kind of run in her robes. Ah, hello your grace. Ignatz greeted when Byleth arrived, before looking at her in some concern. Sorry for asking, but did you run here? No. I was just ensuring I would be on time. Yuri was lucky he was standing far enough away that she couldn't stomp on his foot when he chuckled. So how does this work? Oh, well, we have everything set up inside the cathedral. There's a chair for you to sit in while I work, so you don't really have to do anything aside from that, haha. His laugh was a little nervous, but he seemed to calm quickly at Byleth's reassuring smile. Oh, before that though, Lady Varley actually came to me with a request so, would you mind hearing her out? Bernie did. Byleth asked, before pausing. She probably shouldn't call her Bernie, right? Well, maybe if Bernadetta didn't mind. Hello Lady Eisner. Bernadetta squeaked as Byleth entered the cathedral. Somehow, she'd managed to actually stay waiting there for the Archbishop to arrive even if her every instinct was to flee this far too open place in favor of her room at the monastery. Hello Bernadetta, Byleth greeted in return with a smile. Ignatz, Sir Ignatz told me you had a request. Right. This was it. The moment of truth. Would you mind if I painted a... Oh no, she screwed up. That was way too fast to understand. Oh, sure. Wait, huh? Why you mean it? Why Yuri okay with me joining the, joining in here? Byleth nodded, unmistakably happy with Bernie's offer. I would be happy to let you paint me. And, well, it was hard not to smile when Lady Eisner was smiling at her like that. Gee great. I promise, I won't get in the way. And so, the painting process began. Byleth sat on a comfy chair in the middle of the cathedral while Ignatz and Bernadetta set up with their easels and painting supplies in front of the future archbishop, positioned to capture her in a simple, sitting pose with a soft smile on her face. One that should be easy to hold for however long the process took. Which was a longer time than Byleth was hoping for, though she at least kept her nerves steady by focusing on how intent Ignatz and Bernie were on their work. She just had to think of it like she was helping her students with a project, and everything became much easier. Even if she was in the cathedral instead of her classroom, Ignatz wasn't actually one of her students, and there were other people around, and so was Yuri, who had his eyes on Bernadetta for some reason. For a second, she considered the idea that he might be trying to intimidate the nervous girl, but she didn't seem to notice him looking and, on a second thought, Yuri probably wouldn't do that. Without a reason to, at least. Still, now she was curious. Did he know her from somewhere? She considered asking him later when he noticed her staring and smirked over her, giving a little wave and settling back to watch her instead, which, right, no, keep focus, no getting nervous. Byleth took a slow, subtle breath as she kept completely and perfectly still, her soft smile still in place. If this was how she was going to be immortalized, then she wanted to do her best for it. Chapter 18, Goodbye for now. I must say, I'm impressed, Lawrence Hellman Gloucester, heir to the noble house of Gloucester, admitted to his rival across the chess table, prompting Lady Varley to use her own artistic talents to join in with what was meant to be my house's gift to the new archbishop was quite the inspired move. Oh, you honor me, Lawrence, Ferdinand replied with a smile of his own, though you should give yourself credit too. I imagine you had at least some hand in nudging Lady Edmund to take Lady Eisner to tea beforehand. I may have, perhaps, though due credit should be given to Marianne above myself. She's done very well in ingratiating herself to Lady Eisner. Did you see how the two of them were eating with one another at the dining table? I did, and I do recall Bernadetta was also eating with them. And participating in the conversation, which I have to say is quite the feat for her. Truly, we were both quite fortunate in our selected partners for this excursion of ours. Lawrence smirked. Though I do think my side could be considered the winner in this rivalry of ours. So you say. Ferdinand returned his smirk. Though Lady Eisner is still wearing that pendant. Lawrence sighed, his good humor falling slightly. Yes, I suppose I will have to concede your victory in that field. Though at least we can both agree we dear performed far better than the lions. Oh, on that, we are in complete agreement, my friend. Did you hear Ingrid apparently led Lady Eisner right into a demonic beast on their ride earlier today? Egads. Really? That, well, I assume things must have gone well given Lady Eisner didn't seem too shaken. Oh, certainly. Ingrid seemed the most shaken of the three, which I suppose is understandable. I doubt expected her attempt to win Lady Eisner's favor would turn into a near-death experience. Would anyone? So is the beast still out there, or? Oh, no, it's dead already. In fact, from what I heard from the knights, it had been handled before they went out there. Lawrence blinked at that information, before realization came to him. Ah, of course, it must have been Lady Eisner's bodyguard then, that girl, Happy was her name, correct? Oh, you think so? I suppose she did go along with her as a guard. Ferdinand tapped his fingers on the table, thinking back to the dark-skinned redhead. She introduced herself to me as Lady Eisner's friend though. She even had an irreverent nickname for her, much like Dorothea has for her friends. Come now, you can't tell me you think she was telling the truth. No, it's obvious now she must be Lady Eisner's personal guard. No wonder she was so unshaken then if she had such a capable warrior at her side. Ferdinand frowned. Are you certain? She doesn't seem to have the bearing of a warrior. I am absolutely certain. Think for a moment, the other members of her retinue each have their place within it, correct? That lavender-haired gentleman is her attendant, that brute Balthus is her trainer, and your empire's own Constance von Novelli is her tutor. It is only reasonable then to presume Happy has her own place with her group. Lawrence adopted a thinking pose, considering matters further. In fact, if I am correct, each member of her retinue is from a different region of Fodlan. Yuri is from Faergus, Balthus from the Alliance, and Constance from Adrestia. I wonder then, considering her complexion, it would be very likely then that Happy is of foreign descent. Perhaps Almiran? Yes, that would make sense, there was already at least one Almiran at the monastery with that Cyril boy. Ferdinand listened along to Lawrence's mutterings, then slowly started nodding along. Yes, that does make a good deal of sense, then. Do you think Lady Rhea gathered these individuals to better balance Lady Eisner's education? And to give her a broader sense of the world outside the monastery? Yes, of course, it makes perfect sense. Lawrence grinned, pleased with himself and his deductions, before frowning. Though I do wish she had chosen a better representative for the alliance. Well, at least Constance was more lively at dinner tonight, Ferdinand mentioned, thinking back to how boisterous the blonde had become in proclaiming her impressive achievements and rise in status after joining Lady Eisner's staff. I'll have to mention her presence to Edelgard when I return. Ah, such is the trappings of monarchy. There is always some superior to report to, isn't there? I wouldn't say superior, exactly. Besides, you'll be reporting your activities to Claude in the Alliance too, won't you? I certainly will not. I will be reporting to the Round Table, not Claude specifically. There is a large difference between reporting to an emperor, as you will be doing, and sharing information amidst your allies. And yet, I would say with confidence that the empire remains far more stable than your coalition of loosely connected allies. I remember our school days, Laurence, and I recall how readily you challenged Claude for his position. As though you didn't do the same with Edelgard. Ah, but there is a large difference. Ferdinand smiled as he echoed Laurence. I act to ensure my emperor is the best she can be. You undercut your rival and weaken the whole as a result. Such are the benefits of monarchy. As the pair of nobles started to argue in earnest, still keeping to their largely polite tone and without raising their voices overmuch, the pair of knights along the wall just listened along, pretending they weren't getting annoyed at their liege's antics. I don't think they've touched one of those chess pieces in 10 minutes, the Alliance knight noted. The Imperial knight regarded the chessboard. Do you think they even know how to play chess? Why, you don't think she was just being nice, are right? Bernadetta asked her current companion as she curled up on her bed. Ignat's painting was so much nicer than mine. I'm sure Lady Byleth loved your painting, Marianne gently responded to the nervous Varlier. Are you sure? She seems really nice, but she's still the Archbishop, right? I don't want to make someone like her angry. Oh no, what if she was already angry? Bernadetta thought to herself. Maybe that's why she didn't come when I invited her to hang out with us. Lady Byleth isn't the kind to lie, and she isn't one to anger easily. You saw how she calmed Seath down after the kingdom's gift. Oh, that's right. I didn't think I'd ever see someone give someone else a dagger at a ceremony. I don't even know if Hubert would do that. How is everything with the Black Eagles, if you don't mind me asking? Well, trying to keep calm, Bernadetta did her best to think of what to say. Edelgard hadn't really told the rest of them what exactly she was planning, but it was clearly something big and a secret. They're doing good, I think. They've all been kind of busy, even Dorothea went back to the opera company to help with funds. Since there's a lot of unrest, cause of the imposter regent. That's good to hear. With everything going on, I'd hate to hear that anyone was hurt. Well, what about your house? I wasn't really involved with what happened at the capital, but you helped fight off an invading army. Oh, no, I didn't do much, it was mainly General Holst, as well as Claude. All I did was help the injured afterwards. Still, that's very impressive. If I was there, all I would have done is shoot some arrows. You actually helped people. Don't say that. I'm sure your skills would have been very helpful in the battle. You took out Laurence in the mock fight, didn't you? That was just a lucky shot. Bernadetta proclaimed, trying to deflect the praise. Silence fell over the pair for a few moments, before the two found themselves breaking into laughter as they realized just what exactly they were arguing about. Why, I didn't think it'd be so easy to talk to someone. Yes, it's very easy to talk with you, Bernadetta. It almost makes me wish the academy was still open so we could spend more time together. Why, yeah, maybe with a friend like you it would have been nice. Well, as long as Shay doesn't beat us all up again like in the mock battle. Marianne giggled. Hopefully she wouldn't. Could you imagine if we had all remained long enough to get to the Battle of the Eagle and Lion and she did the exact same thing again? Oh, yeah, I could actually see that. She was kind of scary. Shay was. I kind of missed the chance to meet her with everybody else, and then she beat everybody up, but then she helped rescue Monica and fought with Edelgard at the battle at Inver, so, Marianne looked a little curiously at the smaller girl, remembering how Lady Byleth seemed interested in Shay. What else was she like? Huh? T tall? And loud, K kind of like Casper, who's also really intense, and I'm not good with intense people, though, that actually reminded her. Speaking of intense people, do you think we should invite Ingrid to join us? Oh. Marianne paused at the change in subject, before considering the question. I don't have any objections. I just don't really know her that well. Me either. She and Sylvain messed up a bunch with Lady, with B. Byleth, so, it's stupid, we shouldn't. You're thinking we should try to cheer her up, Marianne realized, before smiling as Bernadetta ducked her head. I think that's a lovely idea. You're very sweet, Bernadetta. And now Bernie was blushing. Why you're sweet too. Marianne felt her smile widen for a moment before she spoke again. Bernadetta, I was planning to, write to Lady Byleth after our visit here, to continue communicating. Do you think you would like to join in? Okay. I would love to. She couldn't help the happy giggle she let out. I didn't expect to make so many friends here, thank you. It really is, why you are very welcome. And, if it is not too much trouble, I did have another request. Huh? What is it? Marianne took a little breath, trying to ignore a bit of heat coming to her face. Do you think, I know you painted Lady Byleth's portrait today, so I was wondering if I could commission you too. Huh? Why you want me to paint you? Maybe, at some point, but I was, actually wondering if I could have a painting of, Lady Byleth too. She wasn't really expecting that, but she kind of understood it too. Well, I wouldn't mind. I've only done the one though, so, I wonder if B. Byleth might be willing to pose again. Then perhaps it is something we could save for a later date. Sure. JJ just make sure to keep it in mind, Bernadetta agreed, before considering just what she might do for a new painting with Byleth. She should probably consider the pose, where they might do that sort of pose, what Byleth would be wearing. I wonder if she would be willing to pose naked, Marianne mumbled to herself, apparently considering that specific question. Bernie was pretty sure her friend was saying that to herself and she wasn't actually supposed to hear, so she was just going to pretend Marianne didn't say anything. Even if she was kind of wondering the same now. We're ruined. We've destroyed the bonds between the kingdom and the church forever, and all of Fodlan is going to descend into chaos and war because of us, Ingrid groaned as she laid back on her bed, staring up at the ceiling. Alright, I'm not used to being the voice of reason, but it might not be that bad, Sylvain said. It said a lot about the current situation that the redhead hadn't once tried to tease his blonde friend for letting a guy like him into her room, instead just leaning his arms against the backrest of the chair he was sitting backwards in. I led the new archbishop to a demonic beast. She's still alive though, right? Ingrid grabbed her pillow and shoved it against her face, letting herself scream out her frustrations while Sylvain awkwardly watched. Well, at least dinner went okay. Neither of us even talked to her once during it, Ingrid grumbled into her pillow. That's not true. We said hi to her. You said hi to her, I said hi to the floor because I didn't even manage to do her laundry correctly. Hey, you made an important scientific discovery today. I don't think anybody knew mixing soap and demonic beast blood made a fabric-eating acid before now. Ingrid whined, still muffled by her pillow. Alright, well, let's look at some positives, okay? We made some inroads into getting the new archbishop to actually visit the kingdom. How long has it been since an archbishop decided to visit Faerghus, huh? A while, at least, right? You mean you made inroads? When you weren't flirting with her attendant. Okay, it wasn't, I didn't intend, all of it to be flirting, at least part of that was information gathering. And what did you learn? Well, I learned that Lady Eisner has never dated anyone. Sylvain ducked as Ingrid pitched her pillow at him. Why would you focus on that? I was curious. Besides, it's not like Yuri outright told me, I just asked if she'd been in a relationship and he started laughing, so I put two and two together. What is wrong with you? Lots of things. Look, we're focusing on the positives right now, right? What's something positive from your side of things? Ingrid settled back, trying to think. I think I know what her divine blessing is. You do? Wait, how? Well, you remember how we ran into a demonic beast, right? Yeah, it's why you've been rolling on your bed making whining noises for a while. A second pillow narrowly missed him as he leaned out of the way. Shut up. Anyway, okay, from the top, I noticed Lady Eisner had a sword with her when we went out for the ride, but I didn't really think about it because it looked more like a ceremonial sword than a real one to me, but then she drew it against the demonic beast and I'm pretty sure it's something like a hero's relic. It has that strange, almost bone-like quality to it. Oh, so you noticed that too? Always thought those things looked freaky, but, wait, she has a relic on her. I think so. It doesn't have a crest stone though, so I might be wrong. Huh, so that's the blessing. No, that wasn't it. After she drew the sword, she walked up to the demonic beast and, well, she offered to let it go first, and she said she didn't like unnecessary killing. I think we have different definitions of unnecessary. Right? But, the thing is, it flinched back from her at first. It seemed wary. But it tried to attack her anyway. It breathed poison over her, but I don't know exactly what happened. She was completely unharmed, and the beast was dead. No, not just dead, it was decapitated. Sylvain whistled, raising an eyebrow. You're not saying Eisner did that, are you? I don't know. I don't think so. She didn't seem to move, aside from when she was complaining about the blood. I think she really must have some type of divine favor on her side. No, I'm sure she has a crest, but I don't know what it could be. Divine protection. She drew a sword, right? Right. And that's the thing too, she wielded that sword so easily. It was like it was just an extension of her arm. She seemed completely at ease with it. I think she's been trained in sword wielding, at the very least. That's not too surprising, but even the greatest sword master can't cut down a demonic beast in one strike. Or, well, I'm pretty sure they can't. I don't think they could, but maybe. Do you think the goddess decided to just cut off a demonic beast's head because it was threatening her prophet? Ingrid shrugged, a little helplessly. Maybe? It's hard to say. I don't see what else it could be though. Sylvain nodded, slowly, and frowned to himself, letting his head rest on his arms. So she's not someone we want as an enemy at all, even without her status. Yeah. You can see why I'm upset now, right? Oh sure, we're dead. Or at least we would be, but she's been nice to us so far. She's given us a lot more leniency than we might get from someone else in her position, so, I guess we should just count ourselves lucky she's a nice church girl and not some zealot. Actually, that reminds me. I don't think she's a church girl, as you put it. I mean, she's clearly faithful, she gets along really well with Marianne, but I saw her while she was undressing and she didn't look like a monk or a priestess at all. She looked more like someone who grew up as a knight or maybe a mercenary. She had really firm muscles all across her body and these small scars too. Sylvain blinked. She has scars. Yes. Not especially large ones, but the kind you would probably get from seeing combat. It was hard to tell, but they were faint, mostly cuts too, I think. On the outside of her arms, and some along her chest too. Maybe, I don't recall if there were any lower than that, but it didn't look like she'd taken arrow wounds. Well, you're apparently the expert here. So she's muscular. Right, really muscular. Not especially broad, but her arms are firm and I could see her biceps flex a little while she was undressing. Her back muscles were probably the most defined from what I could see, and I do think she's probably used to using a sword. She had that kind of build. Oh, and she had ABS too, like visible abdominal muscles. Interesting, firm thighs too. Oh definitely. I wonder if she travels a lot? She was pretty natural on horseback, so she probably had experience. And are her boobs as big as they look? Yeah, they're definitely. Ingrid looked at Sylvain, her expression completely flat as he grinned. A moment later, Marianne knocked on the door to Ingrid's room. Maybe she's not in, Bernadetta mumbled, in her natural place of hiding behind her taller friends in case of danger. We need to give her a chance to answer the door first, Marianne pointed out, before pausing at the sound of a sudden thump, which made Bernadetta squeak in fright, and then the continued sound of profuse apologizing. Ingrid? Are you okay? Against her better judgment, and Bernadetta's urging to flee in the other direction, she decided to try the door and opened it to find Ingrid kneeling beside Sylvain, rapidly apologizing as the redhead clutched his clearly broken nose with a boot on the floor next to him and a visible shoe print on his face. Marianne couldn't help but notice Ingrid only had one shoe on at the moment, and it looked a great deal like the boot beside Sylvain's head. Ingrid. Thought you would duck it, I didn't, Ingrid blinked up at the two girls in her doorway, noticing Marianne's visible concern and Bernadetta's increasingly panicked expression. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you hit Sylvain in the face with your shoe. I had a good reason. Please don't kill us for witnessing your crime. Bernadetta squeaked, ducking even further behind Marianne while clutching at her gown. What? I am not, wasn't going to. Marianne took a breath, really not used to being the calm one in a social situation. Well, no, she wasn't calm, but Bernadetta was panicking and Ingrid was panicking so she could attempt it. Ingrid, would you like to join Bernadetta and I? We were going to have a sleepover. Well, why yeah, I would like to, Marianne raised a hand and channeled some magic to mend Sylvain's wound. He should be fine now. Oh. Okay sure, let's go, she said while dropping Sylvain back to the floor, letting his head hit the ground with a grunt as she quite happily left with the other two girls, though Bernadetta was still giving her a cautious look. Sylvain let out a slow breath, testing out his newly unbroken nose, and stared up at the ceiling. Yeah, I deserved that. You're the Archbishop. Stop pouting, Seath reminded, though that did little to stop Byleth's pouting as she waited for the delegates to arrive at the monastery gates so she could send them off. I'm allowed to feel sad that my friends are leaving. Friends which you'll see again in the future, Seath reminded, at least wait till after they leave before pouting. Fine, Byleth replied, still feeling sad but no longer showing it. At least I'll be visiting soon. On official business. Don't think I'll be allowing you to dally about the entire time you're there. So I can for a bit. Seath sighed at her question. I suppose if all official business finishes before you leave then you may be allowed to walk around for a bit. Doing some sightseeing is not out of the question. Thank you. Greetings, Lady Eisner, Seath. Ferdinand said as he and Bernadetta walked up to the duo. I must say, our visit here has been quite enlightening regarding the relationship between Adrestia and the Church moving forward. I'll endeavor to ensure your future trip to the capital is the best it can be. I don't know if I'll be in the capital when you visit, but I hope you have a nice time. Bernie added, trying her best to smile. I'm sure I will, thank you again for taking the time to visit. Byleth inclined her head politely to both representatives, as proper, but also included a genuine smile for them both. Do make sure Emperor Edelgard is fully prepared to show her case on why Count Varley is the best option to be the bishop of the Reformed Southern Church, Seath reminded. Byleth didn't think she'd be able to, but oh well. Of course, I'll make sure of it myself, Ferdinand boasted with a smile. I can even prepare your travel itinerary for when you're in Inver. Perhaps a trip to the Mittelfrank Opera Company would be in order? You might not know it, but one of our classmates was the star of the stage. That sounds lovely. Seeing Dorothea again, she would definitely have to prepare herself for that. Wonderful. Then, by your leave. Byleth smiled, then gave a short bow to the Duke, the proper level to show respect but not deference, as Constance emphasized. Then she gave Bernie a quick hug, which wasn't proper for a noble but Bernie was her friend, so meh. The shorter girl did stiffen for a moment, then tentatively returned it before Seath cleared his throat, prompting the two to release each other. "Goodbye, both of you. I hope you have the safest travels back home," Byleth said, before finally seeing her eagles off again, hopefully to a better future ahead. "Are you going to be hugging anyone else today?" Seath asked, a little annoyed. "Probably Marianne." "Why? Do you want one?" He just sighed, muttering something under his breath that she didn't catch. Not that it mattered, because soon enough, it was time to see Lawrence and Marianne off too. "On behalf of the Alliance, I thank you for being such gracious hosts," Lawrence said, bowing to Byleth and Seath. "I do hope we can take our pleasant experiences here as evidence the Church will be looking to deepen its friendship with the Alliance." "Of course, Lawrence," Byleth said with a polite smile. She barely saw blood on him anymore, which was a definite positive and let her actually meet his eyes. "It was lovely to have both of you. Thank you for being such gracious guests." "Aha, how coy of you to echo my words so, coy. I am glad to have met you, Lady Byleth, and I do encourage you to visit Gloucester when your inevitable trip to the Alliance arrives. While Deirdre may be considered Leicester's capital, I assure you Egeria is an equally lovely city known for its impressive artistry. It is certainly a place you could find many lovely jewels to adorn yourself with, should you choose." Byleth nodded along. Lawrence was a decent guy, but he was a lot to interact with at once. That, and she was pretty sure his eyes flicked towards her chest for a second there. "I will have to add it to my itinerary." "Of course, please, see that you do. But don't let me get in the way here. I believe Marianne wished to say her goodbyes as well." Why yes, I did. It was lovely meeting you, Lady Byleth. I will send you a letter once I'm back in Edmund, if you don't mind." "I would love that," Byleth said with a more genuine smile. "I look forward to seeing you again. And I'm sorry I couldn't join you and Bernie last night. I was reminded that I must uphold the propriety of my station." Seath didn't react to her subtle dig, but Lawrence nodded along to her words. Yes, one must always endeavor to act in accordance with their station in life. I am sure Marianne forgives you for being unable to join her nightly gathering." "I do, yes," Marianne muttered with a bit of annoyance in her voice, before nodding to Byleth again. "Perhaps next time, Lady Byleth." "I would love to." And she gave Marianne a hug too, the blue-haired girl only pausing for a moment before she returned it with a soft sigh. Thank you again," she said as she pulled back, genuinely smiling before she moved towards her horse. And then she was off and Byleth was alone with Seath again. "Well, him and the gate guards. Is it that I didn't ask before hugging them?" Byleth asked him, prompting him to sigh. "That's not, it's inappropriate to hug dignitaries, Byleth. Flame likes my hugs." He pinched the bridge of his nose. "I don't know why you think that's an appropriate retort." "So, where are the lions? I thought they would be the second to leave. Unless we're doing the same order as the greeting ceremony." "We are, though it wasn't intentional. This time, instead of forgetting a gift, they decided, well, I'll just let them show you," he stated as Sylvain and Ingrid finally approached. "It better not be a knife this time." Here," Ingrid said as she thrusted her gift in Byleth's face. "For you, your grace." "Damn it Ingrid, we had a plan," Sylvain muttered, slightly less harried than his blonde friend. Byleth, meanwhile, stared that armored bear stuffy Ingrid had just pushed towards her face, taking in the black fur of the plush, before taking it from her. A watery smile crept up her face before she hugged it tightly to her chest, giving it a big squeeze. She looked up at Ingrid, unable to hide even a hint of her happiness, not that she wanted to. "I love it. Thank you so much." Gee good. "Good, I'm glad." Then Ingrid was suddenly being hugged by the new archbishop and wow, alright, she did have very firm arms, but also a really soft, and she promptly leaned back, a nervous grin on her face. Thank you." "Oh, sorry, I should have asked." "Just, thank you, again. I really love it," Byleth said, continuing to cuddle her plush. "Well, hey, if you're offering hugs," Sylvain said, spreading his arms. Byleth stared at him. There was no longer a smile on her face. Yeah, alright. He let his arms drop. Byleth kept a hold of her plushie, but moved over to Sylvain and gave him a quick hug. I'm glad you're alive. He blinked as she broke the hug, feeling a weird lump in his throat at that strange assertion, before he cleared his throat. So, just you and Seath out here. Yes. I can have him slap you if you want. I'm not doing that, Seath stated. You'd do it for Flayn. Well, yes, I would, but that has no bearing on this topic. Yeah, Sylvain didn't know what to make of that and his heart was still feeling weirdly warm, so he was just going to ignore it. Sure, alright, I was just curious, I guess. I thought maybe there'd be more people? I mean, I haven't even seen Lady Rhea once since we got here. Traditionally speaking, the preceding archbishop is never present for her successor's ascension, Byleth explained, using the age-old excuse she'd studied up on. Tradition was useful like that, particularly one started by all the previous archbishops being the same person. So it's not a surprise that you didn't see Rhea. Byleth, came the voice of the previous archbishop, as though summoned by her mentioning. Though it was a more openly happy and excited voice than Sylvain and Ingrid were used to hearing from the normally very composed woman. Though that wasn't the only surprise as the two turned to see Archbishop Rhea, arguably the most important woman in all of Fodlan before Byleth came along, riding up on a white Pegasus, the winged horse's wings folded in as it landed and trotted over to them. And even then, that wasn't what got Sylvain's jaw to drop. No, that was the white tunic and trousers Rhea was wearing, both lending a far more casual air to the regal archbishop than either lion had ever seen, especially with how her long green hair was tied back in a rider's braid. The smiling archbishop that was descended from her steed and strode straight over to the new archbishop, who looked an odd mix of happy and resigned to see her. Hi Rhea. Hello child. How did everything go? I haven't heard anything bad from Seath, so I can only assume your ascension went excellently. Seath didn't tell you anything bad happened, huh? Sylvain and Ingrid both started sweating. Yeah, that sounds about right. It went well, I made friends. Oh, that's wonderful. I knew you could do it. Sylvain watched the byplay between the two green-haired women, then shared a look with Ingrid, the two nobles internally wondering what sort of relationship the two archbishops had and gradually coming towards a shared conclusion. Where were you anyway? You mean this morning? Well, I thought it might be good to get back into shape, so I went on a ride with your father. You did? Wait, where's Dad? Oh, he should be coming up soon. I don't know why he insisted on taking his usual horse instead of a wyvern to keep up more easily, but I suppose that man has always been stubborn. Argo's a very reliable horse, Byleth stated, frowning up at the taller woman. Did you leave him behind? Well, I can't very well win a race if I don't, now can I? Oh good, the nobles left already. A new voice came from the gates, and Sylvain and Ingrid watched as Geralt the Blade Breaker urged his horse through at a leisurely pace before getting down off of it. Then he noticed the two of them. Oh. Or not. Hi Papa, Byleth greeted, raising a hand. Ah, hey kid. Everything go good up here? Yeah, I was just telling Rhea. Alright. He gave the current archbishop an annoyed look. You could have waited. Rhea crossed her arms over her chest. That entirely defeats the point of a race. Sure. Still would have been nice. Would you have waited for me? Probably not. Well, there you have it. Sylvain felt like he was intruding on something. Right, so, we're going to go now. Nice to see you, Lady Rhea, Captain Geralt. Of course, child. Have a pleasant trip, Rhea said with a smile while Geralt just raised an eyebrow. Which one are you again? Right, he was just gonna go. And help Ingrid go while he was at it, since she seemed to be staring at Rhea, Geralt, and Byleth with visible surprise, as though she were connecting dots in her head to make the same picture Sylvain already had firmly in there. Thanks again for the bear, Byleth said, waving to them as they left. Oh, now that is adorable, Rhea commented with a fond smile. Does he have a name yet? Not yet. Give me a bit. If you insist. Well then, shall we, she asked, taking her Pegasus by the reins and leading her back to the stables, followed by Seath, who was considering how best to explain everything that occurred over the past 2 days without causing the kingdom representatives any more grief. Well, any undue grief. Yeah, all right. Want to get lunch? Byleth asked her father. Yeah, sure, I could eat. Should put Argo back first though. After that then. Byleth was about to leave, following Rhea and her father, before a thought occurred and she turned back, heading over to the typical gatekeeper. Oh, hello your grace. Is there anything I can help you with? You do a very good job here. Thank you for your work. Oh. Well, thank you very much, your grace. Byleth nodded to him, before turning and heading back up towards the monastery to join her family once more. Chapter 19, Interlude, Impressions. Gotta say Claude, didn't take you for the pious type, Hilda commented as she arrived at the Regan tea room to find the young leader of House Regan staring intently at a painting of a divine-looking figure. With a small, gentle smile on her face, the woman sitting in the painting seemed to radiate an aura of peace and tranquility to all those watching. Not really, Claude admitted, but if I'm gonna learn more about the new archbishop, it's only right I study a painting of her. No. That's the new archbishop. Hilda looked closer at the painting. I guess I can see it. She does have that Rhea-ish look to her. She does, doesn't she? But we'll get into that later. You mind looking over here? He asked, pointing to part of the portrait. At her boobs. He didn't even blink. No, at the pendant. See it? Yeah, sure I do. What about it? Other than how nice the red goes with her hair. It's a gift to our new archbishop from our friends at the Empire. Pretty interesting that she's wearing it while sitting for a portrait, don't you think? Claude grinned. Think she might be trying to say something. Claude, you know I'm not good with this big political stuff. Hey, it's no trouble if you can't think of anything, I just want to hear your honest opinion. Hilda huffed, rolling her eyes. Ugh, well, why else would a girl wear jewelry she got as a gift? Either she's showing off or she's saying she likes whoever sent it. That's what I was thinking too. And while I don't know too much about our new archbishop, from how Marianne tells it, she's not the type to show off. Hilda perked up. Oh, you heard back from Marianne? Course I did. I spoke to her myself when she came to the round table meeting to share her first impressions. What? And you didn't invite me? Claude raised an eyebrow at his pink-haired friend. Do you really want to go to a round table meeting? I thought you weren't good with political stuff. Well, if Marianne was there, Hilda huffed again, before taking a seat at the tea table and helping herself to one of the macarons. So what does Marianne have to say about Lady, Her name's Byleth Eisner, apparently, which is pretty interesting for a lot of reasons. As for Marianne, she has nothing but good things to say about our new archbishop. Faithful, friendly, divinely blessed. The funny thing is though, even with all that, I was getting the feeling our old classmate wasn't telling me everything. Well, why would she? A girl's got to keep some secrets, Claude. Claude chuckled, turning back to the painting. I guess, but you know me. When there's a secret around, I can't help but try prying at it. Yeah, it makes you really annoying. So how'd you get a painting of her here already? Lawrence had Ignatz paint the first one, then put in a request to the church to make copies. I can't say I know much about the painting process, but apparently it's not unusual for artists to copy popular works. Of course, I'm sure Lawrence decided his family should keep the original, so I wouldn't be surprised if the monastery has one of the copies instead. So this one's a copy? Did I say that? Claude asked, flashing a grin back at Hilda. Yeah, I'm not sure I want to follow up on that. So Lawrence went too, right? What does he have to say about Lady Byleth there? Plenty. Mostly about how she's the perfect noblewoman. Beautiful, pure, perfect manners, demure, shy, blah blah blah. If I were a betting man, I'd put money on him getting every one of those wrong, especially with what I already know. Yeah, Lawrence tends to get in his own head about stuff. He glanced back at Hilda. Aren't you going to ask? Why? You want to tell me anyway. Claude Mock frowned. You're no fun sometimes. Anyway, it might surprise you to know Byleth Eisner is either a more common name than anyone would expect, or our new archbishop used to be a mercenary. Hilda paused. Wait, really? Okay, I know Lawrence is wrong, a lot, but how does he get shy, soft, and demure from mercenary? Probably because he doesn't know that tidbit. Unlike him, I do my research, and Byleth Eisner is the name of a decently famous mercenary called the Ashen Demon with an even more famous father, Gerald the Blade Breaker. Alright, none of that makes sense. How does a famous mercenary become the archbishop? Probably by being Lady Rhea's daughter. Hilda nearly choked on a macaron. What? I know, right? I didn't think Lawrence could actually get something right, but this is one impression I'm sure he got spot on. It took some careful investigating, along with what Lawrence and Marianne told me, but I can guarantee to you that Lady Rhea, our old archbishop, had a tryst with her former captain of the Knights of Syros, one Gerald Eisner, and this woman, he gestured towards the portrait. Is the result. Huh. That's, wow, okay, I'm completely rethinking my impressions of Lady Rhea here, Hilda admitted, staring at the painting too. So, wait, she let her daughter become a mercenary. That part I haven't completely figured out yet. Byleth is definitely the same woman as the Ashen Demon, but as to the why, I'm not sure. Though it might have something to do with the very coincidentally named Ashen Wolves, which is apparently the secret fourth house of Garreg Mach. Hold on, you lost me? Claude waved a hand. Again, I'm not completely sure on this part, but there's evidence that they're not actually a real house, it's just that Byleth's retinue is pretending for Flane's sake. Apparently our new archbishop is fond of Seath's kid, which does work with my earlier theory that Seath is actually Rhea's brother. Wait, what theory is that? Back on topic though, the Wolves might not be an official house, but they're an interesting bunch. A lost nobleman from Faerghus, a ruined noblewoman from Adrestia, some girl who might be Almiron and is apparently a brutally strong bodyguard, and Balthus. You know, if you're going to stop listening to me, I could just... Hilda blinked. Balthus? Wait, Balthus von Albrecht? Balti. Ah, so you do recognize the name. Good, I was hoping you'd prove that theory of mine right. Claude nodded, satisfied with himself. Apparently he's working as the new archbishop's trainer. He is. Oh, wow, oh, I have to tell Holst. He'll definitely want to know where Balti finally turned up. Sure, go ahead, but do you mind doing it later? I still need someone to bounce my ideas off of. Hilda frowned at him. You need me for that. Of course I do. You're my closest confidant, who else can I trust? Though, don't tell your brother that, he already threatened to bury me if I got too close to you. She rolled her eyes. Ugh, I swear, he's the worst, but, still, I'm glad to hear Balti is doing okay. I'm a little surprised they'd have him as a trainer instead of her guard though. That Almiron girl must really be something. Presumed Almiron, Claude corrected, but yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Somehow, 4 people from all over Fodlan wound up serving the same prospective archbishop. Weird how that works, isn't it? Careful, Claude. If you keep that up, you might start seeing conspiracies everywhere you look. Oh, trust me, Hilda, I'm not the only one seeing all these connections. I'm sure if we look around, our western neighbors to the north and south are having conversations exactly like this one. Which brings us to the Great Fire at Garreg Mach Monastery 20 years ago, Sylvain explained while pointing towards the sketch of a burning monastery he had on his blackboard. Not actually drawn on the blackboard though, no, instead he had a piece of paper with the sketch on it posted onto the board itself. Now around this time a bunch of records are lost, at least one person died, but most importantly to the topic at hand, Gerald Eisner, the then captain of the Knights of Syros, went missing from his post completely, leaving the monastery until he shows up 20 years later to join the monastery again. Now I know what you all must be thinking, would Captain Gerald be the person who set that fire? Not necessarily, it's completely possible it's a coincidence, but I do think he at least used that exact opportunity to sneak away with his newborn daughter. he gestured to the sketch of Byleth on the board. Byleth, also known as our new archbishop. But that raises the question, why would he do that? Why would a new father leave behind a place of safety and security with a newborn baby girl unless that place wasn't so safe or secure anymore? And why might he think that? Could it be because he had reason to fear someone inside the church? But why? Well, what if his daughter happened to be born with a rare crest? One so rare, he knew for a fact she would never have a normal life if he left her there. But who could he possibly fear in his position? He was the captain of the Knights of Syros, one of the highest-ranked people in the church. Who could possibly be a threat to him? Sylvain pointed directly towards the picture of Archbishop Rhea on the board. Who else but the Archbishop? The very same Archbishop who is willingly stepping down so Geralt's daughter can take her position. And why would she do that? Why would he be willing to come back? Why would anyone in this situation take the outright bizarre actions they're taking right now unless there's a personal connection? A deeply personal connection no one could have ever expected. And what is that connection, you might be wondering? Sylvain asked, looking around the interior of the war tent as every person present, not just his once classmates from the Blue Lions but also the former Duke Frildarius, stared at him in genuine confusion. Aside, of course, from Ingrid, who was sitting in her chair with her face in her hands. Oh, and King Dimitri, who was slowly nodding along with a thoughtful expression on his face. Finally, the current Duke Frildarius, also known as Felix, decided to speak up because no one else was. Sylvain. What the hell are you talking about? Sylvain blinked, then looked back at his blackboard full of sketches. I thought it was obvious. No. It's not. Oh, weird. Well, Geralt and Rhea are exes. What? Ah, of course, Dimitri said, nodding solemnly, I was getting the feeling from your presentation. Ah, see? Dimitri got it. Felix stared incredulously at his king, then looked back at his idiotic friend. The red-headed one, specifically. Are you insane? What? No. It's super obvious. Ingrid can vouch for me. Felix looked at Ingrid, who finally removed her head from her hands. I can't actually argue with it. Why not? Well, I mean, you didn't see it. Just, Rhea came back from riding and the way she was talking to Lady Byleth, it was just a lot like a mother talking to her daughter. And then Geralt came up too and just. There was definitely tension there, Sylvain stated, nodding, believe me, they definitely had ex's energy. Not completely hateful, but there's a reason they're still not back together, you know. I don't know. Because I'm not insane, Felix stated. Hey, don't stab the messenger here. I'm just reporting what I honestly saw, and I'm sure we can all draw the same conclusion. Dimitri nodded. Yes, I agree. Lady Eisner is almost certainly Lady Rhea's. Lady Rhea fucked. He blinked. Sylvain. What? I said the same thing you did. You did not, and you did not need to say it the way you chose to. Sylvain pointed to his liege. But now you're thinking about it. Rodrigue cleared his throat. While I don't think it's my place to interrupt this discussion, I feel as though it would be sacrilegious to continue on this topic. No, this is just us discussing facts. What would be sacrilegious to say is that both mother and daughter are insanely hot and I'm deeply disappointed I didn't get to see them both in tight pants like Ingrid did. The men in the room stared at Sylvain, before, mostly subconsciously, directing their gaze towards Ingrid, who turned red. Sylvain. What? You're the one who watched her undress. I was just checking to make sure she wasn't injured. That is not what you told me. Dimitri clapped his hands together, the loud sound cutting off the argument before it could begin, before he looked at one of his oldest friends. Sylvain, you're never going on a diplomatic mission again. Yeah, that's fair, we did botch this one pretty badly. Right, about that, Felix spoke up, what was that about Lady Byleth getting injured? Ingrid winced. On our second day there, I decided to take Lady Eisner out on a horseback ride and we, ran into a demonic beast. Well, that sounds bad, Dimitri commented, no one was hurt, right? Oh, no, I was fine, Lady Eisner was fine, her friend Happy was fine too, right, apparently she has the protection of the goddess because the demonic beast died without even touching her. Oh. I see. The actual protection of the goddess? Felix asked, sounding skeptical. Not just a powerful crest. I don't know any crest that can decapitate a demonic beast without anyone touching it, Sylvain commented, prompting another incredulous stare his way. Perhaps we should save the specifics of this divine protection for later, Rodrigue suggested. For now, we should focus on what we know for certain. And Sylvain, your earlier comment about botching the meeting is concerning. Oh, yeah, that. Yeah, so, the whole reason Ingrid decided to take Lady Byleth out on a ride is because the afternoon before that, we had a tea party with the new Archbishop and she saw one of the dignitaries, you know Bernadetta von Varley. No, Felix answered. The small girl with the purple hair, asked Dimitri. Yeah, her. She's a bit taller than the last time I saw her, now that I think about it, but also she spilled tea on herself and Ingrid pulled her up from her seat and ran off with her. Eyes turned towards Ingrid and she cringed. Why yeah. I might have overreacted. I was just trying to take her to the infirmary. Yeah, don't blame Ingrid for it, I'm the one that wrecked our first impression by flirting with Lady Byleth, Sylvain said, earning an immediate scoff from Felix and a groan from Dimitri. Sylvain, please. Hey, in my defense, I didn't know she was the new Archbishop when she nearly ran into me, I thought she was just a cute priestess. Why did you flirt with her anyway? You were on a diplomatic mission, you shouldn't have been flirting with church staff. Yeah, I realize that now, and I accept full blame for screwing that up. And, in the spirit of that, I hope you are willing to accept the blame for the biggest debacle of our visit, Your Majesty. Dimitri blinked. Pardon. Sylvain, you should watch your words, Didou, who had been impressively silent and straight-faced for most of the discussion, reminded Sylvain, his eyes intense as he stared down at the redhead. I know you are His Majesty's friend, but if you attempt to blame him for your failures. Oh no, I'm not blaming him for my failures, big guy. I'm saying that sending a bear dagger in a box as a gift was probably the worst thing he could have done for us, Sylvain said in an impressively even tone, only showing a slight hint of a hysterical edge. Didou absorbed that information, before looking over at Ingrid. If it is not too much trouble, could you confirm what Sylvain just said? It's no trouble, and, yes, the gift we showed to Lady Eisner, Ingrid winced, thinking back to the offense in Sietha's voice. It was a blade, sitting on a cushion, without a sheath. I see. Didou settled back. I apologize, Sylvain. I was out of turn before. It's no problem. Dimitri, meanwhile, looked at his friends in confusion, especially when he noticed Felix now had his head in his hands and Rodrigue was staring at him incredulously. Hold on, one moment. I do not understand everyone's reactions. Isn't a knife a perfectly acceptable gift? Sylvain barked a laugh before he managed to cover his mouth. Now Ingrid was staring at Dimitri too, genuinely aghast. Is it a bad gift? Rodrigue put a hand on Dimitri's shoulder. Your Majesty, it is clear to me now that we need to have an honest discussion about what gifts are appropriate to give in what situation. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Of course you don't, Boar, Felix grumbled, before dragging his hands down his face. Right, someone tell me if we're going to war with the Central Church. I need to not be here anymore. Dimitri watched him leave through the tent flap in open confusion, before looking back at Rodrigue. Is it because I didn't include a sheath? Yes. It is. Because that's a threat, Your Highness, not a gift. Oh. Why did you even think a knife was a good gift to give anyway? Sylvain asked, genuinely curious. Seriously, what about new Archbishop made you think she'd like a knife? Dimitri frowned. The last girl I gave a knife to greatly appreciated it. Then that girl's completely insane. I swear Ferdinand is going to drive me insane, Edelgard muttered as she entered her office, finally free from her prime minister, who seemed far too eager for the Archbishop to visit. That man hadn't even given her a chance to collect her thoughts as he regaled her with the tale of his trip to the monastery. He truly does love the sound of his own voice, Hubert said in agreement, following behind her with Monica closing the doors behind him. And with his tendencies, I can't help but wonder just how many of those words were true to life. At least Bernadetta isn't the kind to embellish the truth. Monica asked, holding the still-wrapped painting under her arm. Though I can't help but wonder if the new archbishop was putting on an act. If she is anything like Rhea, she undoubtedly is, Edelgard said as she sat down. If anything, she might be even better at manipulation than Rhea was. While she didn't want to distrust Bernadetta, Edelgard couldn't help but find it odd that the normally shy girl spoke about Eisner as if she were a close friend already. Come to think of it, she had also said Marianne had grown close to her. Perhaps she was targeting those with apparent weaker wills to manipulate? It is interesting though, Hubert noted, rubbing his chin in thought. I wonder what Rhea's intentions are, allowing this new woman to take her position. Even if the two of them share the same nature, Rhea does not seem like the type to give up power. Not unless she has something to gain from it. Maybe she wants someone more approachable to be her public face. Monica suggested, there's nothing to say she won't still be the one actually running things, and if Ferdinand and Bernadetta are any indication, this Lady Eisner is better at smaller social interactions. Perhaps. Your Majesty, do you have any thoughts on the matter? Edelgard had hundreds of thoughts on the matter, mostly regarding the truth behind Rhea and the church as a whole, and what it could mean that there was another green-haired woman now taking power in Fodlan. Any information they had about this, Byleth Eisner, could be a complete fabrication centuries in the making. From her history to her parentage, and attempting to unravel the tapestry of lies was going to be difficult. But if she were to fulfill her ambitions of ripping Fodlan free from the church's clutches, all the way down to its 1,000-year-old roots, she needed more information. It was too early to act, but that wasn't stopping the world from turning, or her enemies from coming to her. We'll need to prepare for her visit. Ferdinand promised more than I wanted to give, but we can work with it. It all depends on if we want to wait for our initial plans, or if we would stand to gain more from seizing the moment, as it were. They are practically handing us their new leader, Hubert noted with some amusement. It feels almost a shame not to take advantage of such a foolish misstep. Assuming it is a misstep, Edelgard stated, before looking up at her steward, Hubert, I want you to gather all the information you can on Lady Byleth. Not just what you already have, but every hint of who she is, where she's been before now, and what her relationship is to Rhea. Of course, Your Majesty, he agreed with a bow to his liege. Monica, would you mind setting up that portrait? I want to see what Bernadetta painted. No real assignments for me yet. Monica mock-pouted, before smiling and nodding to her emperor. No problem. There should be a stand around here, right? No, don't get up, I'll find it. A moment later, the painting was unveiled, and, despite themselves, all three Adrestians stared curiously at the woman depicted on its surface. She has really sad eyes, Monica noticed. She does look a great deal like Rhea, Hubert noted, though she does look distinctly different. Interesting. Maybe she's her daughter. That's an avenue to explore. Edelgard, meanwhile, simply studied the portrait without commentary. Yes, the woman in it did have sad eyes, which was an interesting choice by Bernadetta to emphasize, and yes, she did look a great deal like Rhea, though not enough to be the woman herself taking a new identity. But what really drew the Emperor's attention was a relatively small detail in the portrait as a whole. Resting on the new Archbishop's chest was a ruby pendant, one Bernadetta had taken care to make sure still bore the eagle insignia on its surface. The Archbishop wore the Empire's gift to her own portrait painting, and let it be painted into the portrait. Bernadetta wouldn't have painted the pendant if it wasn't there, so it was. What could that mean? What signal was Lady Byleth trying to send? Did she truly know of Edelgard's plans already? Was this a subtle indication that she expected obedience from the Empire? If it was, it would be ironic. Edelgard intended a subtle meaning of her own in presenting the new Archbishop with a chain from the Empire to be put around her neck. Byleth, Edelgard murmured, testing the name on her tongue, you'll be an interesting foe to face. Yeah, but I'm sure my dad is stronger, Caspar commented, prompting a huff from Shay as they sat by the training fields, taking a breather after a whole lot of training with the troops. Well, Shay was taking a breather, she was pretty sure Caspar would have kept going on his own for the entire day if she let him. Sure, but Count Berglis is the big-time Empire general. He's pretty much in his own league, right? She asked, leaning back on the bench as sweat beaded down her face. Though I guess there's that Holst guy in the Alliance who's also super tough. Well, now I'm wondering how I measure up to those guys. Well, you're definitely not as strong as my dad if you need to take breaks. I'm weaker if I need to take breaks at all. Caspar nodded. Yup. I don't think I've ever seen my dad take a break because he's tired. I'm pretty sure he just gets bored. You know that's insane, right? Hello Shezi and Caspar. Dorothea greeted with a bright smile as she walked over, drawing a few eyes from the training soldiers, especially as they took in her opera gown. I was hoping to spot you two on my visit. Oh, hey Dorothea. Shay greeted, smiling back at the brunette. What brings you over to the palace? Probably for the same reason Edie's calling all of us over. Caspar, you didn't mention yet. Huh? Mention what? The reason Edie wanted everyone from the Black Eagles to gather in Inver. Caspar tilted his head, thinking. Yeah, I've got nothing. It was in the letter. No, never mind, it's fine. The new Archbishop is coming to visit Inver. Wait, what? Lady Rhea died. Shay exclaimed. She did. Caspar yelped, which earned a giggle from Dorothea. No, she's fine, she's just stepping down. Though from the rumors I've heard, well, Dorothea smiled as Shay gave her a curious look. What rumors? Oh, just that the successor Lady Rhea picked happens to look fairly similar to her in an interesting way. One that suggests our Archbishop might have had some fun she wasn't supposed to. Huh? Oh, the new Archbishop is her bastard? Caspar asked, apparently getting it far quicker than Shay, for once. Potentially, Dorothea replied in a tone that said she fully believed it to be the case. Apparently this new girl, Lady Byleth, is supposed to be. Hang on, Shay interrupted, a frown coming to her face. What did you just say the new Archbishop's name is? Huh? Oh, Lady Byleth. As in, Byleth Eisner. Daughter of Geralt the Bladebreaker. Dorothea blinked before realization dawned. Oh, right, you're whole. Well, it might not be the same person. Shay didn't believe that for a second. There was no way that was a coincidence. Not when it came to that name. Caspar, meanwhile, looked confused. What's going on? Shay took a breath, trying to settle herself even as she felt her powers starting to push up beneath her skin. The Ashen Demon is the new Archbishop. Oh okay, cool, Caspar commented, completely deflating Shay's dramatic statement. Caspar, that's her rival, Dorothea pointed out. Oh, right, the vengeance thing. Well dang, guess you can't beat her up now. Shay paused, because, right, she probably couldn't now. Well shit. Chapter 20, Reasonable Discussion and Final Preparations. Absolutely not. Byleth blinked, staring at Rhea across the Archbishop's desk, before a frown came to her face. What do you mean, absolutely not? I mean as I say, there is absolutely no chance that I would allow you to gallivant off to the Empire. Rhea stated, a firm frown of her own on her face. Which was a little funny to see considering Rhea was on the other side of the desk and Byleth was the one in the fancy chair now. I'm not gallivanting, it's a diplomatic. The Archbishop doesn't go on diplomatic missions. That's what delegates are for. I already said I'd be going. It would look bad if I didn't go now. You should have discussed things with me first. I can make my own decisions. I'm the Archbishop now and I can't change anything if I stay holed up here like you did. And that made Byleth feel bad when she saw Rhea flinch. The former Archbishop stared at her for a second, before shaking her head and turning towards Byleth's father, standing on guard nearby. Geralt, can't you speak some sense into her? Rhea, she was already an accomplished mercenary before she got all these new powers and she's been training up all her skills for months now. There's nothing to worry about. Still. Don't you see how dangerous it can be? You yourself have said a war will break out, who's to say it won't while you're traveling? No, it won't. Things might have changed, but in my time it took a year for a war to be declared. And with everything going on, it wouldn't surprise me if it took longer. Really, the fact that I made plans to visit each nation will probably delay it even more since they need to plan around that. Byleth had to consider herself lucky in that regard. Sure, the students weren't at the academy as expected, but the fact that Edelgard ousted Arundel meant it would take her more time to prepare her forces since she lacked his, assuming she still wanted to take down the church. Considering Edelgard's view of the Church of Ceros, Byleth felt it was still pretty likely. And what if the Agarthans do something? I've dealt with them before, Byleth said, her hand gripping the sword of the Creator, attached at her side as she preferred. And if I'm going to change anything, I need to talk with the Emperor. Gritting her teeth, Rhea could see that she wasn't going to win this argument. Fine. In that case, Geralt, I'm assigning you to be her guard on her trip. I'm the captain of the knights, and you're not my boss. That is true. However, as the captain, it is your duty to protect the Archbishop, who she is. Sure thing, Lady Rhea. Good. I'll leave it up to you to decide who will be going with you as the rest of her guard, Rhea said, nodding at him. In the meantime, I'll make sure to handle the clergy who will be assisting with the Southern Church. Guess that means I'll be waiting till you two finish with that? Byleth asked. She didn't really mind her father coming along, so that wasn't an issue, and it would be more convenient to let Rhea handle some of the bureaucracy. Delegating was supposed to be one of the perks of leadership, after all. Yes, but I did have another thing to ask, Rhea said, looking back at Byleth with a small frown. I understand you were the teacher for the Black Eagles, but must you wear that pendant all the time? Seath has said that people around the monastery are starting to talk about you favoring the Empire. It was a gift, Byleth said, pouting a bit. Even so, you could at least wear it under your clothes. You're going to be the Archbishop, what you choose to wear sends a message. But I like it. Rhea frowned as Byleth continued to pout. I am not saying you need to cease wearing it, Byleth, is there a reason you're so set on wearing that pendant? Byleth blinked. What? What do you mean? Her frown deepened, an idea starting to take root in her head as she stared at the young woman across from her. Does your reason have anything to do with who gave you that gift? Byleth stiffened, a hint of red coming to her face. That, what? Why would it? Behind Rhea, Geralt made a face. Don't tell me you like that Ferdinand guy, kid. What? No. No, it's not him. I didn't even think I liked men until a while ago. Huh. Well, that explains some things, he noted. Rhea, meanwhile, narrowed her eyes. So it's a girl then. Too late, Byleth realized she unintentionally trapped herself. Suddenly, being behind the desk felt less reassuring since her exits were cut off. That's, maybe I just like the color? It looks nice. Rhea leaned on the desk, practically looming over Byleth. Fine, I will not pry further on the precise identity of the girl you are interested in. Though, to be clear, you are interested in both men and women, correct? Byleth wasn't sure she liked where this conversation was going. No, actually, she really disliked it. Maybe. Why, is that a problem? No? Why would it be? I don't know, you're being weirdly sinister right now. Oh. Rhea straightened, trying to look less menacing. My apologies. I am simply concerned, Byleth. I realize I am not the best resource to look to, in terms of romantic advice, especially in light of my own romantic failures. Byleth wasn't sure she was supposed to hear that part. Regardless, I simply wish you to be safe moving forward. I trust your father has informed you of what you need to know. In what regard? Rhea raised an eyebrow, then glanced over at Byleth's father. Geralt, you've given her the talk, right? What? You know, the Pegasi and the Wyverns. Geralt quirked an eyebrow in return. Why would I tell her about that stuff? She's never shown any interest in anyone. You fucking fool. Hey, the hell's the problem dash? Why haven't you told your adult daughter about sex? Rhea snapped, slamming her hands on the desk. This is basic education. Do I look like the kind of guy who knows how to talk about that? She didn't need to know it. Of course she needed to know it. Goddess, did you even help her while she was going through puberty, or did you just assume it would work out on its own? I know about, Byleth tried to say, only to be drowned out by Gerald snapping back. Hey, I took care of my kid. Of course I gave a shit about her health. Clearly not enough to inform her about making safe choices. You do not get to say that, Rhea. You weren't there. I wanted to be. I would have happily. You know why I left. You were the one who. Byleth felt like she should leave now. So with the benefit of time stop, she did. Should I ask? Seath inquired as Byleth closed the office door behind her, hoping the argument wouldn't get loud enough to be heard through it. No. No, you shouldn't. She glanced at a pair of nearby clerics, who seemed a little too interested in the shouting match beyond the door. Hey. Shoo. The two scurried off, leaving Byleth to sigh and Seath to give her a sympathetic look. So, are you aware of? I know about sex. We had healers in the mercenary group and Manuela insisted on making sure I was up to date on body stuff, so I don't need to talk. Seath slowly nodded. That wasn't what I was going to ask. Oh. Her face reddened, much to her annoyance. What were you going to ask me about then? I was going to ask if you were aware Lady Novelli was looking for you. Oh, no, I wasn't. Okay, thanks for telling me then. Do you know where she is? She mentioned the library, I assume she's still there. Seath said, going back over some documents. Not wanting to stick around longer than she should have to, Byleth went off, heading to meet with Constance, who was indeed waiting for her as she pored over an open book. Oh, hello there my attendant, I trust the business you had with Lady Rhea is over. More or less. In that case, I can make my case, Constance said with a nod as she stood up. Now, I shall undoubtedly be traveling with you on your journey across Fodlan. Oh, well, if you want to, then yes. I do. Your first stop is in Bear, so of course I shall go with you. All I request is that you ask Emperor Edelgard to give me an audience to showcase my magic prowess. Constance said with a flourish of her fan. To try and regain your house. You're on the mark, my attendant. While my own personal funds are still low, being your tutor has raised my own stock quite high. However, to regain my house, I need to show my worth to the Emperor herself. I can ask her, and I'm sure you'll regain your house. With a small smile, Byleth gave her a pat on the head. Anyone would have to be foolish not to see how incredible you are. Her fan snapped shut. Your words are appreciated, my attendant, unless you mean them as condescension, in which case I will endeavor to prove you wrong. Wait, I don't know how that makes sense. It simply does, she stated quite firmly, before glancing at Byleth again. I did not say to cease patting my head. Oh, okay. Byleth returned to patting Constance's head. It kind of felt like she was petting a cat, right? Probably shouldn't think like that or she'd wind up giving her tutor scritches. What are you two doing? Yuri asked as he entered the library, prompting a startled squeak from Byleth that made him smile. If you must know, then I was requesting that my attendant aid me on our trip to Inver, Constance answered, though you may be her attendant, it shall be I who is at her side while we are there. Is that so? Well, I won't object to hanging around with the shady lady and the holy lady. Though I will say, do take care while in the kingdom and empire. Even if I'm there with you, nobles can be quite crafty. I'll do my best, Byleth said, prompting a smile from Constance. You undoubtedly will. Why, I even have a spell that can assist with that, should you wish for me to use it. What spell? Iron Will, of course. With this spell you will be able to face any issue without crumbling. Please tell me this isn't like that licorice boot spell. Yuri muttered. Though you fail to see the majesty of my spell, does not make it a failure. In fact, I'll show you right here how strong of a spell it is. Byleth only had a moment to react as Constance raised her hand, pointing at her as a spell formed. Behold. Friend. Is everything okay? Yuri asked. Well, my attendant? Will you not show us how well the spell worked? Constance requested. Constance, I think you froze her. But I didn't use any ice components in this spell. Yes, but I think instead of an iron wool, you just made her as stiff as iron. Oh? Oh, interesting. Though I will admit, that was not my intended result. I would hope it wasn't. Yuri stared at the Archbishop for a moment, then decided to poke her cheek. Well, she's not as hard as iron, at least. Byleth's eyes suddenly flashed, a green glow coming over them as she suddenly swung her arms out, before starting to stretch her stiff limbs. What in the world are you idiots doing with my prophet? I could practically feel her internal panic, and while that is not unusual for her at this point, I would request that you do not cause her any undue distress. Yuri and Constance stared as their friend/employer suddenly spoke in a completely different voice, not that Byleth seemed to care as she continued her basic stretches, testing the limberness of her, limbs. Well, been a while since this happened. Less time than you would think, boy, the alternate personality retorted, before cricking Byleth's neck while regarding him. You really are remarkably pretty for a human male. Thank you. Stating a fact does not require thanks. As for you, she turned towards Constance while gripping her leg and lifting it up, leaning forward in a vaguely menacing stretch. No more testing spells on my prophet without her verbal consent. What? But she is my attendant. Constance argued, before flinching at the sudden fire she saw in said attendant's eyes. Well, perhaps further discussion may be had on the subject. There will not be. Stop messing with Byleth or I will erase your family line from existence. Are my conditions understood? Quite. Not Byleth nodded. Good. Now then, if I am still in control for the moment, I really should see that son of mine, no? Oh, fine, if you insist. The glow suddenly dimmed to Byleth's usual shade of green before she let out a slow breath and glanced at Constance, looking a little contrite. Sorry about her. I know you didn't mean any harm. Oh, it is quite all right. Really, I should be thanking you. Byleth blinked as Constance suddenly grabbed her hands, a bright smile on the blonde's face. I just spoke with the goddess, did I not? To think, I would actually get to speak with true divinity. She even directly addressed me. Why yes, that's true. I cannot even begin to thank you enough, my attendant. Think of what this could do for my house's reputation. She moved to wrap an arm around Byleth's shoulders, gesturing as though showing her a grand sight. I can see it now. Constance von Novelli, direct recipient of the goddess's wisdom. Perhaps I could even replace Count Varley as the Minister of Religious Affairs. I am certain he has never experienced divine revelation. She just told you to stop casting spells on me. Without your verbal consent, of course, I do recall, but the content does not matter nearly as much as the act in and of itself. Oh, this is giving me ideas. Quickly, let us adjourn to my room. I require your aid, my attendant, in divining the truth of what I have been shown. Wait, hold on. Constance did hold on. Specifically, she held on to Byleth's wrist as she dragged her out of the library and towards her bedroom, her slim frame hiding a surprising amount of strength as the Archbishop tried her best to keep up. Yuri, meanwhile, watched his friend leave with a curious eye, before crossing his arms over his chest and tilting his head in thought. So the goddess has a son. What do you think you're gonna do first when we get to Inver? Balthus asked, glancing over at his red-headed friend as they hung out by the stables. I dunno, Happy said with a shrug as she brushed her horse's hair, there's a lot of nobles there, right? So there's probably going to be plenty of sweets shops. What about you? Isn't it obvious? Gonna go on a tour of all the taverns and gambling halls in the capital. There's nothing better than booze I bought using the money of someone with deep pockets. You do know you're going to be a representative of the church, right, B? Don't think you'll be able to do that. Nah, don't worry, I got my ways of getting around. Besides, it's not like I'll be doing any of the important talking. That's not the point, B. I'll just ask Byleth, I'm sure she'll say it's all good. Ask me what? Asked the woman in question as she walked on over. Oh, hey, whoa, Chatterbox, you look terrible, Happy noticed, taking in the new Archbishop's slumped posture and visible exhaustion. Constance had ideas. Happy and Balthus both nodded to that, needing no other explanation. Well hey, now that you're here, you mind telling me if I'm allowed to drink on the trip to Inver? Balthus asked. What? Sure, go ahead. Dad drinks all the time, I don't think anyone would care. Aha. See? What did I tell you? Happy sighed. Yeah, laugh it up, damn it. Byleth paused at the sound of screaming from the marketplace, along with the all too familiar growls of a giant wolf. That's really inconvenient. Yeah, I noticed. Sorry. Byleth sighed, thankfully not summoning a monster too. I'll take care of it. Nah, let me, Balthus said as he started fixing his gauntlets in place, I could use a workout anyway. Byleth watched as her buff friend sprinted off, then blinked when he leapt from a roof to deliver a flying elbow to the giant wolf terrorizing the marketplace. Well, I guess if he has it handled. Hey. Byleth glanced over. Oh, hi Cyril. What is it? You're leaving. Yes, I'm going with the wolves on a diplomatic tour of the nations, starting with the Empire. So what happens to class? Byleth blinked, then smiled, a bit happy to hear he was so invested in her lessons. Don't worry, Flane will take over for me while I'm gone. Alright, that works. And with that, he turned around and left. Is it strange that I feel disappointed? Happy shrugged. I don't know what you expected from him. I don't know, just, maybe a goodbye? Or something. Yeah, I don't think you're getting that close to him. Happy paused. Hey, was he in your future stuff? Yeah, he was, though, well, I didn't really interact with him that much because I was depressed and I didn't know him that well so I hardly took him on missions, Byleth frowned. Should I try to get closer to him? If you want to. Shouldn't you be preparing for your trip though? True, I should be focusing on that, Byleth agreed, though she still looked thoughtful. Maybe I should ask Rhea to spend some time with him. Sure, why not? He's always going on about her, so he'd probably like that. Maybe Byleth could divert Rhea from trying to be a maternal figure to her and have her look after him instead? Yes, that could work, she just had to get Rhea to adopt Cyril. It was a perfectly reasonable plan. There you are, Shamir. Didn't you hear? Lady Rhea called for the knights. Not looking away from her target, Shamir let the arrow fly free, hitting the sketch of the centipede she made directly on the head. Something to do with the new archbishop? She asked, earning a huff from Catherine. What else would it be? I swear, everything's gone crazy since that prophet showed up. Shamir raised an eyebrow at her partner as she set her bow down. Are you still mad she called you Thunder Thighs? No. That's not it. I'm not about to hold a grudge for months just because she commented on my thighs. I guess it didn't feel real, and then Lady Rhea actually stepped down and all of a sudden things are changing in a place that used to feel like it never would. And I guess a big part of me found that more comforting than I realized. Wow. Wasn't expecting honesty for you. Catherine huffed. I'm always honest. Yeah, but not introspective. Whatever. It doesn't help that another part of me just can't stop asking, why are we trusting this random woman from who knows where, Because she's the daughter of the previous captain of the Knights, Rhea clearly has a connection to her, and she does seem to have genuine foreknowledge she shouldn't have, Shamir pointed out while setting down the rest of her equipment. Bringing a bow and arrows to an important meeting tended to send the wrong message. She could probably get away with keeping a knife though. I already knew all of that. Yeah, I know you know, which is why you need to move past this already. I get that you're feeling uncomfortable with change, but you can't exactly stop it. Besides, I thought you would like her better after she got Lady Rhea to start training with you. It's still weird that she was in her bedroom in a school uniform. Shamir raised an eyebrow again. You know they don't have that relationship. Hell, most of the monastery seems to think Rhea's her mother these days. And you know that's not true, she reminded, annoyed. I do, sure, but it's pretty obvious their relationship is familial, or at least platonic. Unless you want to test what Rhea is into and show up in an academy uniform too. Catherine blinked, then actually looked thoughtful. I wonder if my old one would still fit. Shamir rolled her eyes as she started walking ahead, leaving her partner to catch up. It was just her luck, getting partnered with a beautiful, tanned blonde who obviously liked women, but who was fixated on one woman in particular. Speaking of the former archbishop, when Shamir arrived at the meeting room the knights were gathering in, she couldn't help but notice Rhea seemed to be having a staring contest with Captain Geralt. At the very least, the two were glaring at each other from their places at the table, which seemed a little awkward given Rhea was at the head and Geralt was seated directly to her right. Scratch that, very awkward, considering how every other knight in the room was looking very much like they wanted to be anywhere else. "Ah, hello Shamir," greeted Eloise in a mostly jovial tone, barely hiding the undertone of "please save me." It was almost impressive how he managed to keep his smile looking natural despite the sweat beating down his face. "I'm surprised to see you arrived before Catherine. Usually it's the other way around." "Yeah, she might be late," Shamir replied as she moved over to take an empty seat. "Oh really? I thought she went to get you. What else might she be doing? Trying on her old school uniform." "What?" That apparently caught Rhea's attention, the former archbishop looking uncharacteristically confused then pausing as Catherine came in. "Eesh, you couldn't have waited for me," the blonde, who was still in her usual armor, complained as she took the seat beside Shamir, before glancing around the room. "Is this everyone?" "Well, Gilbert is still on his leave of absence," Eloise answered. "I'm not sure if Seath will be joining us though. This is more of a knightly affair, after all, and while Seath may be mighty, I doubt he's very knighty." "The word is knightly and that wasn't even a pun," Geralt chided, apparently done with his staring contest since Rhea broke first. "He did say knightly before knighty," Shamir pointed out. "Oh, true. What was even the pun then?" "Good morning everyone," Rhea interrupted, which was understandable, that conversation was going nowhere. "Thank you all for being here today. I understand some of you may be having difficulty adjusting to the recent changes the church has been undergoing, yet I shall thank you again for being faithful and stalwart in this time of change. As you all should know, I have recently abdicated my position as the Archbishop of the Church of Syros. I imagine most of you have already encountered my successor as she currently resides at the monastery." Shamir noticed Catherine frowning, though the blonde didn't dare interrupt her archbishop. "For those of you who somehow remain unfamiliar, the woman I speak of is Lady Byleth Eisner, the daughter of the captain of the Knights of Syros, Geralt Eisner," Rhea continued without acknowledging Geralt's presence, despite him still being right next to her, "and the undeniable prophet of the goddess." Some of the gathered knights shifted at Rhea's words, their interest piqued by the confidence with which the former archbishop declared Byleth a genuine prophet. Having met the woman, Shamir could safely say the real person was way more anxious than whatever the knights were picturing. Byleth has been gifted by the goddess with the power of prophecy and is capable of directly communing with her. With these blessings, she will be able to guide Fodlan into an era of peace, she explained, her words stirring the attention and interest of the gathered knights. "I shall still remain a member of the church, of course, but merely as an advisor at most. Though the burden of leadership is heavy, I believe Byleth can bear it." Then she sighed, and a few of the knights seemed genuinely surprised at the sound. Which leads to the main topic of importance today. As she is my successor, I shall not argue against the decisions Byleth chooses to make. Geralt had a very suspiciously timed cough right at that moment, prompting an annoyed look from Rhea. During the recent visit of the nation's delegates, the new Duke Agir made the offer for Lady Byleth to visit the Empire ahead of her inauguration. She continued, "My successor agreed to this diplomatic visit, and thus she requires guards for the duration of her stay there. To that end, I intend to select Dash." "All right, let's cut to the chase," Geralt interrupted, earning a frown from Rhea. "Who wants to go to Inver?" "I'm going, anybody else who wants to go can volunteer now." "Not it," Catherine said, her arms crossed as she frowned. "Well, I would love to go," Eloise declared. "Inver sounds wonderful to visit this time of year. And I'm sure I can get some equally wonderful souvenirs down there." "I can go," Shamir offered, and Catherine immediately looked betrayed. Not enough to speak out against it, but she was bound to be pouting later. There were a few more smattered agreements and excuses before Rhea seemed satisfied with the selection. Very well then, it appears we have our retinue established. Geralt, I trust you can handle things from this point onward. Oh, so now you trust me? Rhea's calm smile immediately turned very agitated as she shot Geralt an irritated glare. You are the one who did not trust me. Okay, good to know what the mission is, Shamir said as she stood, completely unwilling to get involved in whatever drama that was there, so I'm just gonna skip the chatter and get ready. Is that good with everyone? Great, awesome, see you in Inver. Without another word, she walked out, aware of Catherine following behind her. Hey. Are you seriously going with the new archbishop? Well, I did just volunteer, so yes. Why? You did just hear Rhea saying she is an actual prophet, right? I don't know about you, but I'd prefer to stick around the person with knowledge of what's to come. Especially when it's someone trying to prevent a war. Shamir quirked an eyebrow. Unless you think Rhea is lying. Of course not. I just don't trust that girl. Well, even if you don't, the decision has been made. Besides, at least this way you can stay here and spend more time with Rhea. Shamir felt a bit annoyed that Catherine actually seemed to like that idea. Well, I would still prefer it if you were here too, Catherine admitted. Bit late for that. Already said I would go. Besides, we're just going to Inver for now. Depending on how things go, I probably won't volunteer for the Fhirdiad one. Though I doubt it'll be bad. So, how are you feeling? Suthies asked Byleth as the latter tried to get some rest. Her bedroom was covered in books at this point, most coming from the church and relating to the politics of the empire, though a few were some forbidden texts she found in Abyss. Potentially useful, but not something she was focusing on at the moment as she cuddled up to a comfy pillow. I feel nervous. Though that's kind of the norm for me now. Yes, it certainly is interesting seeing you like this, Suthies noted as she looked down at her friend, but let's try to focus on something else. Oh, what about when you accomplish your dream of preventing the war? Surely you have something you wish to do once everything is settled. Well, I already spoke to Geralt about what I want to do, but... Byleth rolled over in bed as she frowned, staring up at the ceiling now. If I'm being honest, I'm kinda thinking of taking up the Cardinal's offer of faking my death if everything works out. Maybe live in a nice cottage in the woods. Truly. Yeah. I mean, not right away. It'll be a few years or so and I gotta make sure I at least find a successor, but, you know, it sounds nice not having to worry about fighting or being a leader. Just have a small place for myself away from everything. You and I are remarkably alike sometimes. Huh. Suthies drifted down beside Byleth, laying next to her on the bed and staring up at the ceiling. I myself held the desire to simply rest peacefully, despite the scale of power I wielded. I am not an ambitious being by nature. I could have built myself an empire of my own on this simple little planet we reside on, yet instead I gave the technology one had to the small people that were so generous in allowing me a place to live. I chose Xanatos for its place away from the people of this land and bade the Nabateans to live simple lives, content in the powers that were theirs by birth. To live harmoniously with this world that had welcomed us as neighbors. She sighed. Of course, I failed to understand that while I lacked ambition, those I had once considered friends were not the same. Generations passed and the descendants of those who welcomed me saw the powers they wielded not as gifts, but as rights, and demanded more. And those were the Agarthans, Byleth murmured, listening raptly. That should be obvious enough not to warrant comment, but yes, you are correct. This land was once called Agartha, instead of Fodlan, and there were 4 nations, not 3. They chose to turn on me, and in turn I destroyed them, because they had mistaken kindness for weakness and a lack of ambition for lack of ability. Of course, once it was done, I wished to simply rest, and that led to my own downfall. What are you saying? That I shouldn't give this up. I am saying that you are not alone in this world, Byleth, and I mean it as both a reassurance and a warning. There is no harm in wishing for a simple life, but your simple life can be encroached on by others with ambitions, cruel desires, or just some insipid reason that makes them want to harass others. Peace is hard to win and harder to maintain. You might need to prepare for your retirement to come later than you intend. Yeah, I kinda expected that. Byleth mumbled as she stared at the ceiling. But, at least I'll be able to work with everyone again. Even if it's just for a bit. Yes, and you can thank me for that benefit. Byleth huffed, amused. Thank you, Suthies. The goddess nodded, pleased, before continuing her own ceiling watching. Perhaps you will find your path changing as you travel along it. Dreaming of peace is never wrong, but it may be that you find peace in places you did not expect. I still want a little cottage though. It sounds nice. You're the almighty Archbishop, remember? Just order a cottage built and nap in it on your days off. What, like on the monastery grounds? No, on a field somewhere. You have magic, you can warp. I don't know how to do that. Then get someone to do it for you. I shouldn't have to help you with this. She grumbled. This would be simpler if you could turn into a dragon and just fly to your oh-so-cozy cottage. No offense, Suthies, but I haven't had the best experiences with dragons. Turning into one, that sounds scary. The goddess immediately sat up, glaring at her. It's not scary. It's majestic. Glorious. Dragons are amazing. Take it back. Suthies, the last time I saw a dragon, it was Rhea going completely insane and melting. The only reason I wasn't terrified is because I was still emotionally dead at that point. Suthies glowered at her friend. You are objectively wrong and I rescind all the earlier nice things I have said about you. What nice things? Suthies bristled, offended, then promptly vanished with an aggravated noise, leaving Byleth staring at where she was in some confusion. Okay then. She laid back down, frowning up at the ceiling, before a thought occurred. Oh, damn it. And Suthies immediately peeked back in. Yes? What is it? I missed all my students' birthdays, she said in a distinctly mopey tone. You are a ridiculous child. Suthies' complaining aside, Byleth still needed to finish her preparations before traveling to the Empire. That being said, Byleth still couldn't help but feel nervous yet again. So, she went to find someone to talk to. Which was probably why she ended up walking to her mother's grave. There were more flowers on it, from Geralt and likely Rhea as well. Though some were probably from the Ashen Wolves too. Hey mama, Byleth said, sitting down by the grave, you're probably happy that so many people are coming by more often. Letting the wind caress her, Byleth leaned back to stare up at the dark night sky overhead. It feels weird, getting a second chance, yet still not being able to meet you. I wonder if you'd have any advice for me, though, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. I mean if someone I knew came up to me spouting about some future war, I'd probably just stare at them. Sighing, Byleth brushed her hair back. Though I'd be okay with any type of advice really, from how Geralt says it, you probably wouldn't tease me if I tried to ask for romantic advice. Now I only have people teasing me, and those who have some bad experiences of their own. Didn't help how many people seemed to misunderstand Rhea and Geralt's relationship. Probably shouldn't mention that to her mom. It feels weird, knowing that you're in love with someone who's gone. I wish I could have said something to them but, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Edelgard didn't like me anymore after I ended up going against her. Dorothea though, I think that the two of us probably got so close because we were both so jaded because of the war. I wish I could have supported her like she did me. Reaching up, Byleth rubbed her tears away. If they're somehow up there with you, then I hope that they're happy. I wish you could have met them, and I wish I could have met you. Maybe things would have been better, but, well, I can never know for sure. So, she sighed. I'd never go as far as Rhea or Aelfric did, but in moments like this, I think I understand them better. I really do wish I could meet you. Sorry, you probably don't want me to talk about a bunch of sad things while I'm here. I've made plenty of friends, they can be a bit much at times, but they've also helped me. I actually feel happy here, and I spent so long being sad and angry that I still don't know if this is real. It probably would have been nice growing up here. I don't know how long I'll be gone on this trip, but I hope I have good news when I come back to talk to you. Standing up, Byleth held up a folded coat she had with her. Her time as a mercenary was long gone, so the world didn't need an Ashen Demon anymore. Setting her coat down on the grave, Byleth bid her mother farewell, before walking off. Though the Ashen Demon may be gone, Byleth Eisner was going to live her life as well as she could. Check the description for the links to the author.